Chapter 1167. Patriarch. In the main hall, Li Qingyang reported in detail the various resources in the spatial rings of the four hegemons of starry sky and said weakly, "Are you listening?" Jun Changshao, who was sitting at the head of the table, seemed to be thinking. Jun Changshao came back to his senses and said, "What did you say?" Li Qingyang was speechless. He had reported to the Patriarch many times, and it was rare to see him so absent-minded. In desperation, he could only report the various resources again. Jun Changshao listened and said, "Refine the herbs and ores into pills and equipment. Give the spirit stones to old Yuan and let him distribute them." "Yes." Li Qingyang received the order and left. The system said, "Aren't you going to the Soul Race continent to save your wife?" Jun Changshao said, 11th Shi's mission is complete, the enemy of the Starry Sky Navigator King is gone, how could she be in trouble? Maybe someone coveting the throne is causing trouble again. Impossible, I have arranged for the 3 purified palace masters to be in the Soul Race continent. With them there, who would dare to cause trouble? Since the epic mission has a mission to protect loved ones, something will happen sooner or later. Would the host die if he went? All right. Jun Changshao compromised. That day, he took Cui Hua to Aeon City, and then went to the Soul Race continent through the previous passage. Because the space-time tunnel could be mended and opened at any time, coming to this plane was as easy as strolling in the back garden. It had been almost a few months since Jun Changshao last left, and the space that was torn by the fight with the handsome man was gradually healing. Standing at the entrance of the tunnel, his spiritual sense shrouded a large city in the distance. Looking at the Soul Race martial artists who were living as usual, he spread his hands and said, "No one attacked at all. That's strange." The system was puzzled. Jun Changshao did not go to Empress City. After confirming that the Soul Race continent was safe, he returned to the Falling Star continent. "Since you're here, why don't you go take a look? I haven't dealt with the 4 hegemons of Starry Sky yet. Unlike you, who is hiding in a corner, not eating, not drinking, not peeing, and not doing anything." If Jun Changshao continued walking towards the center of the Spiritus continent, he would be able to see the floating gate that led to the planar battlefield. Of course, although not going to Empress City would be a form of avoidance, the 4 tyrants of the Starry Sky still had to quickly ask them how they had found the Starfall continent, and how they had determined that he was the murderer. Searching for someone on a continent was like searching for a needle in a haystack. He didn't believe that these people could find him in the universe just by feeling. Having been in the world of martial arts for so long, Jun Changshao could roughly guess that they might have some kind of method, such as tools or martial skills. If he could get his hands on them, they would definitely be useful in the future. Earth Cell. The bald man, one of the 6 generals of the Starry Sky Navigation King, shrank into a corner in fear. He repeatedly muttered in his heart, "Master's enemy, why is he here?" Back then, he had followed the handsome man to the north and south and had been intercepted by the 5 tyrants of the Star Ocean in the universe. Later, he had been brutally beaten up. In order to survive, his master had told them a shocking secret that he had obtained. Only then did he survive. He had thought that they would never meet again in this life, but in the end, they were locked in the same cell. Was the world too small, or was the universe too small? "Boss." A subordinate came over and whispered, "The 4 tyrants of the Starry Sky have been beaten up badly. They are lying on the ground like mud." The fear in the bald man's eyes intensified. The 4 of them were here without a doubt because they had been captured by Jun Changshao. Their heavy injuries were definitely related to him. Master is in big trouble. The bald man thought. The 4 tyrants of the Starry Sky had been beaten up badly. He didn't think that his master could escape unscathed from Jun Changshao. Creak. Suddenly, the cell door opened. Xiao Zui was the first to walk over and set the chair down. Jun Changshao sat down elegantly and habitually clasped his fingers together. He said, "The 4 of you, I killed the Starry Sky Navigation King in the desolate plain." "How did you know? And how did you find the Starry Sky continent?" These words were like a bolt from the blue. The bald man and his subordinates were all stunned. Master was killed by him? The bald man was stunned for a while. A bitter smile appeared on his face. To be able to beat the 4 tyrants of the starry sky to such an extent, it seemed normal for his master to die in his hands. The bald man should be glad that he was locked in a cell. Otherwise, he would end up like the handsome man and the other 5 generals. Kid, the burly middle-aged man said weakly, we are from the Starry Sky Fortress. If you know what's good for you, let us go quickly. Starry Sky Fortress? Jun Changshao was confused. However, when he saw the bald man huddled in the corner, he asked, have you heard of it? Heard of it. Speak. The bald man who was trained by Arya was very obedient. He hurriedly told him everything he knew. In the starry sky of the mortal universe, there was an extremely gloomy area. There was no plane inside, only a huge floating castle. Hence, it was called the Starry Sky Fortress. The master of the fortress called himself the Fortress Master. Warriors from other planes could enter, but the prerequisite was that they had to pay enough resources. As long as they obtained an identity inside, they would enjoy different levels of protection. The identities in the fortress were categorized into first, second, and third class. The lowest third-class identity only had the right to enter. The second-class identity had the right to reside. The highest first-class identity was similar to a noble. Not only did they have the right to reside, they could also choose slaves. Tsk tisk. Jun Chang laughed and said, it's quite feudal. The bald man said again, as long as you obtain a second-class identity in the Starry Sky Fortress, not only can you live there permanently, you will also receive the protection of the fortress. If that's the case. Jun Changshao looked at the 4 tyrants of the starry sky lying on the ground and said, you have obtained a second-class identity in the Starry Sky Fortress? Yes, that's right. The burly middle-aged man's tone was a little arrogant. Obviously, he was very proud of his second-class identity. Jun Changshao said, is the Starry Sky Fortress very powerful? Very powerful. The bald man said solemnly, my master once said that the fortress master's strength is extremely terrifying. He also has connections with many large planes, especially the fortress army that he has cultivated. It is said that a small team of 100 people can easily destroy a plane. That powerful? Jun Changshao was flabbergasted. To be honest, if the 5 tyrants of the Starry Sky and their subordinates attacked the Starry Sky continent with the 9 great martial emperors, they would have to pay a price even if they could destroy it. This so-called fortress army could easily destroy a plane by sending out a 100-man team. Could it be that they were all martial emperors? The bald man said, I heard that there is a very large underground black market in the Starry Sky Fortress that sells many strange treasures. Every year, it attracts many plane warriors to buy them. Interesting. Jun Changshao was interested in the Starry Sky Fortress. It was mainly because of the strange treasures. Little kid. The burly middle-aged man said weakly, we have second-class identities and are fully protected by the Starry Sky Fortress. If they know, they will not let you off easily. They might even implicate your family and the entire plane. Jun Changshao's eyes turned cold when he heard that. He had been thinking about Shirshir the 12th's mission. Now that he knew that someone would help him when he was in danger and implicate his family and the plane, could it be related to that? Whoosh, Poochie. The green dragon crescent blade flashed with green light. Hot blood splattered on the cell wall. As for the burly middle-aged man, his head was separated from his body. Jun Changshao's gaze was cold as he said, this seat hates being threatened the most, especially by those who threaten my family. Sigh. The system said helplessly, isn't it good to be alive? Why do you have to seek death? The dead burly middle-aged man would never have dreamed that he would be killed in exchange for his harsh words just to let this guy know that he had the support of the Starry Sky Fortress. What a pity. He was a martial emperor. Fourth brother. The white-haired old man and the other 2 said sorrowfully. Whoosh! 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 The green dragon crescent blade, Truyong's sword, and Jade Dragon asks the Heaven's sword stabbed into their necks. Jun Changshao said coldly, I don't care if you are protected by the Starry Sky Fortress or Universe Emperor Frisia. Hurry up and answer my question. The burly middle-aged man had angered him. At this time, if the three of them did not cooperate, he could still kill them all. The ruthless Jun Changshao did not care that the other party was a martial emperor. He did not care that subduing them could provide a powerful force for the sect. I will speak. The white-haired old man chose to compromise. Strictly speaking, if not for the remnant book, they did not have any enmity with Jun Changshao. Now that they were captured, why would they have to be unyielding? Wouldn't it be better to give in exchange for a chance to live? The white-haired old man explained how he was sure that Jun Changshao was the culprit and how he found the falling star continent. Actually, there was no mystery. It was all because of the time reversal technique. Secret book? Jun Changshao said indifferently, take it out. The white-haired old man thought for a while and took out something that looked like a jelly bean. This item was also a spatial storage device, but it was of a higher level than a spatial ring. Because there was some kind of isolation force on the surface, it would not be easily discovered if placed in a pocket. You are still hiding something. Jun Changshao took it and pinched it with 2 fingers. His spiritual sense entered it and found that there was a soul imprint blocking it. He said indifferently, do you want to open it yourself, or do you want me to do it? This kind of spatial item cannot be opened as long as the soul imprint is integrated into it, unless... The white-haired old man stopped talking because a caterpillar-like creature appeared beside Jun Changshao. He stared in shock and said, Time. Time worm. Whoosh! The summoned Shuihua stuck to the jelly-like object. It first sniffed with its nose and then divided a force into it to eat the soul imprint blocking its way. Puff! The white-haired old man spat out a mouthful of blood. The soul imprint in the storage device was placed by him. Once it was forcefully destroyed by an external force, it would naturally bring about a huge backlash. The other 2 tyrants lay on the ground and looked at the little worm with disbelief. This kind of time worm that could open up deep space was an extremely rare commodity even in the Starry Sky Fortress black market. It actually existed in a low-level plane. Master. Tsuehua retracted its power and said, the imprint inside has been broken. You have worked hard. Jun Changshao rubbed its little head with his fingers. He was about to put it into the spatial ring, but Tsuehua said first, Master, it is too boring in there. That's true. Jun Changshao summoned the pillar and said, you guys stay outside for now. Oh my god. This guy actually has a time worm. Seeing the pillar appear, the 3 tyrants' eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chapter 1168. Inside the study room. Jun Changshao took out a yellowed secret manual and muttered, is the time reversal technique really that magical? This was a space-type martial technique. After learning it, one could reverse time and space at a fixed location, replaying the scenes that had happened in the past. How much time could be reversed? That would depend on the user's comprehension and cultivation level. For example, the white-haired old man could only reverse time to 10 years ago after hundreds of years, and the range of coverage was only a few meters. Jun Changshao casually flipped through 2 pages and found that the chant was rather complicated. With his talent, it would probably take some time to learn it. Sigh. He shook his head and took out the top-grade Talisman of Insight. Cultivating step by step was not his style. If he could take the shortcut, he would definitely take it. Jun Changshao never cared about others calling him a cheat dog, nor did he care about being called a fart without the system. Because I am me, a different kind of firework. However, just as he was about to crush it, his mind was in a daze. Jun Changshao thought of Rose Queen, because she was the one who gave him the high-level crystal nucleus to refine the top-grade Talisman of Insight. The system said, feelings are nurtured little by little in the small details. Scram. Paw. After crushing the Talisman of Insight, the powerful martial arts knowledge and comprehension instantly exploded his sea of consciousness. Jun Changshao began to meditate and learn the time reversal technique, but he would occasionally be distracted and think of the woman who was bending over the table and correcting the memorials. TSK. The system was surprised. After this guy used the talisman of insight, his wushang greatly increased, and his EQ seemed to have increased as well. Whether it was IQ, wushang, or EQ, they were all related to the brain. The talisman of insight's effect was precisely to develop the brain. Being distracted during cultivation was a big taboo. But Jun Changshao had been cultivating while being distracted, and he had managed to learn the time reversal technique. This was really enviable. Taking advantage of the remaining time the talisman of insight still had, he took out the Tianjun soul refining technique and began to cultivate seriously. 2 hours later, Jun Changshao walked out of the study room. Whether it was in terms of temperament or aura, there seemed to be a subtle change. The system said, the host has already comprehended the Tianjun soul refining technique. As long as you circulate it every day, your soul and spiritual sense will continue to strengthen. Will you be able to stay conscious if you use the power of the stone statues? Jun Changshao asked. The system pondered for a moment and said, it depends on the strength of the host's soul. Jun Changshao did not say anything. Ta! He stopped at the martial arts practice field of the main hall and activated the time reversal technique. He had already learned this mystical martial technique. Now, he needed to test how much time he could reverse and how far he could cover. Hoo! The moment Jun Changshao closed his eyes, he activated the time reversal technique. An attribute similar to the power of space gradually diffused out and then enveloped the entire training field. Buzz! Wang! Buzz! Space began to tremble, and images began to appear in his sea of consciousness like a movie being played in reverse. The training field of the sect of all times had been repaired by Li Qingyang several times. The original mud floor was changed to stone bricks, and then the area gradually expanded to its current size. Jun Changshao, who had used the time reversal technique, reversed the order. From glory to desolation, he returned to the scene when he first transmigrated a few years ago. He saw himself sitting on the stairs at the edge of the training field, holding a bowl of noodles and eating while crying. That was the helplessness and pain of having just transmigrated and facing the unfamiliar world and the sect. This scene, which was like watching a replay, made Jun Changshao feel inexplicably emotional. At that time, he had to go to Aunt Wang's house in Qingyang village to eat. Now that he had reached the peak of the sword and martial saints, it really felt like a dream. Jun Changshao could see himself in the most difficult situation in the past, which meant that with the help of the insight talisman, he already had a good understanding of the time reversal technique. At least he could see what happened a few years ago. I can reverse it again. Hoo! The power of space continued to fluctuate, and scenes of the past appeared in his sea of consciousness again. After a while, he saw 2 men in their 30s appear in the area of the training field, each carrying a bag. They waved in the direction of the main hall and said, "Junior brother Jun, this sect is in your hands. Don't let down the spirit of the sect master in heaven." Damn it! 2 bastards. The 2 people who appeared in the scene were the eldest senior brother and second senior brother who had left after the farewell meal with Jun Changshao. If they were still in the sect now, Lu Qianqian and Li Qingyang would have to call them martial uncle. Unfortunately, the 2 of them left and never came back. Jun Changshao hadn't gone to find the 2 senior brothers since he transmigrated, because in his opinion, everyone had their own ambitions. Since they had left, so be it. Whoosh! The scene in front of him changed again. He clearly felt that the training field that had turned into mud had turned from dilapidated to brand new. His small body appeared again and again, holding a big broom to sweep the fallen leaves on the ground. Go Sheng! Suddenly, a deep voice came from the direction of the main hall, "Clean it up." This voice, Jun Changshao's mood fluctuated slightly, and he said, "Sect Master Wang." He didn't expect that by using the time reversal technique, he would return to the time when the first sect master was still alive and could even hear him speak. With such a heroic voice, it was hard to imagine that he would go to a brothel and choose to break out of prison. The scene in the past continued to play back. After an unknown period of time, Jun Changxiao's expression suddenly froze. He saw himself who was only 4 or 5 years old. He saw Sect Master Wang put one hand on his head and said with a smile, "Little guy, your bones are exquisite. You are really a one-in-a-million martial arts genius. From today onwards, you will be the 3rd disciple of my sect." Jun Changxiao didn't obtain these memories when he transmigrated. It was probably too long ago that the original owner himself didn't remember. What shocked him wasn't that the first Sect Master Wang finally appeared in the scene, but that there was a person standing next to him when he accepted him. This person was wearing a blue robe and looked to be in his 30s. However, his hair was white and there was a wine gourd hanging on his waist. The county chief of Qingyang County. Yun He. Jun Changxiao said in surprise, "Why is he here? Does he know the sect master?" "Sect Master Wang." The Yun He in the image smiled and said, "I'll leave this child to you. Don't worry, I'll nurture him into a talent." Sect Master Wang cupped his hands and said, "What do you mean?" Jun Changxiao frowned and said, "Could it be that my joining the Iron Bones sect has something to do with County Chief Yun?" When he continued to turn back time to look at the past, he realized that he couldn't go back. The system's voice sounded in his ear, "With the host's current understanding of the time reversal technique, you can only go back to 20 years ago." Whoosh! The scene in front of him disappeared. Jun Changxiao seemed to have returned to reality from the illusion. Then, he fell into deep thought. When he joined the Iron Bones sect at a young age, County Chief Yun was actually in the sect and seemed to know Sect Master Wang. No. It didn't make sense. If Sect Master Wang knew County Chief Yun, why would he be captured? Moreover, from the conversation, the original owner was sent here by him when he was young, which meant that he should know me. But why did I feel like a stranger when I first met him? Originally, he just wanted to test the time reversal technique, but when he saw the scene from 20 years ago, Jun Changxiao suddenly felt confused. Maybe, the system said solemnly, the host's real identity is actually a scion. Later, the planet was destroyed by Frisia. A top expert named Yun He risked his life to bring you to the falling star continent and handed you to Sect Master Wang, who had been hiding here for decades, to teach you martial arts. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, "Then my name should be Kakarot?" Chapter 1169. The time reversal technique allowed Jun Changxiao to see the scene 20 years ago when he joined the Iron Bones sect. But why was Yun He here? I can't figure it out. Jun Changxiao, who was sitting in a pavilion in the courtyard, held his head and said, "I can't figure it out." Don't think about it if you can't figure it out. The system said, the truth will slowly surface in time. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "If it's as you think, I might be Kakarot, sent to the falling star continent by someone. Maybe I have relatives in this world, or maybe it's related to Shur the 12th's mission. I still think the mission is related to your wife." Jun Changxiao ignored it and once again fell into deep thought in his most handsome posture. Patriarch. At this moment, Yuan Gongzi walked in. He first reported the sect's affairs, then said, "We can exchange the resources we obtained earlier for high-grade spirit stones in the Big Plains." The space rings of the 5 hegemons and their subordinates were rich in resources, but there were many things that the sect of all times could not use. That makes sense. Jun Changxiao agreed. The sect was currently lacking spirit stones to achieve the overall improvement of the disciples. The idea of exchanging for spirit stones in the Big Plains was very good. About this, Jun Changxiao said, "I'll leave it to you." Yuan Gongzi said with a bitter face, "Patriarch, our stronghold in the battlefield has been sealed. We can't go out at all." "It's been sealed?" Jun Changxiao said in surprise, "I'll go take a look." That day, he entered the plain battlefield through the portal, then stood on the majestic floating mountain. There were no changes, but Jun Changxiao could clearly feel that the surrounding light that was similar to a defensive barrier was more substantial than before. It felt like the door was welded shut so that no one could jump out of the car. Swoosh! He flew over. Just as he touched the barrier, he was bounced back. Jun Changshao frowned and said, "This is a bit too much." They spent so much effort to build a super large-scale stronghold, but the road to the outside world was sealed. No one could accept this. Dear participants. The female system's voice, which he had not heard for a long time, rang in his ears. Because you have been judged to have violated the rules of the upper realm, not only have you been stripped of your right to enter the falling star continent, but your settlement has also been permanently sealed. Jun Changshao looked up at the sky and said angrily, "I came in through my own abilities and fought my way up. How can I be imprisoned just because of a single crime? Do you still have any respect for the law?" If he was caught cheating, he would admit defeat. However, during the construction of the stronghold, he had been punished for violating the rules. In the end, he was accused of maliciously exploiting a bug to gain benefits and his account was banned. This was too much. Shua! Jun Changshao waved his hand and said angrily, "Cui Hua, bite it open." "Yes, master." Cui Hua, who was summoned, immediately transformed into her original form. She opened her teeth that specialized in crushing spatial barriers, and with a crack, she tore a large hole in the barrier. Swish! Jun Changshao flew out with a smile on his face. "You can punish me for using a bug that I once used, but how can you punish me for using other bugs?" Go Sheng, who had the space-time worm, was invincible. Even without a portal, he could immediately drill a hole from the falling star continent. Outside the stronghold of the Lingyuan continent. Kuji Nan cupped his hands and said, "Long time no see. Jun Patriarch's cultivation has improved a lot." Jun Changshao sat down and joked, "We're all old friends. Can we not be so polite in the future?" Ha ha ha. Kuji Nan chuckled and said, "Could it be that Sect Master Jun has come here to sell more pills?" He had done business with Jun Changshao before and bought a lot of healing pills with spirit stones. He sold them in his own plane and made a lot of money. "I'm not selling pills." Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out a few things, saying, "I'm selling some ores and herbs." Oh? Kuji Nan was a little disappointed. However, after looking at the things carefully, he said in surprise, "Jun Patriarch, the quality of these ores and herbs is not low. I'm afraid only a high-level plane can nurture them." The plane was strong. The resources were strong. The unchanging rules. For the falling star continent, the ores and spirit stones it contained were simply trash compared to the high-level Nine Heavens continent. The ores and herbs Jun Changshao took out came from the 5 hegemons of the Starry Sky and the Starry Sky Navigation King. Most of them were robbed from other high-level planes, so the level was very high. Old Ko. I have a lot of these ores and herbs. If you need them, you can exchange them with spirit stones. Jun Changshao wanted to keep them. Maybe they would be useful in the future, but his disciples also needed to be strengthened. It was better to exchange a part of them for spirit stones so that they could improve their cultivation in the shortest time possible. Kuji Nan said, "With the strength of the Lingyuan continent, I'm afraid it's difficult to control such high-level ores and herbs. Jun Patriarch, if you want to exchange, you can go to the first-tier plane." These were good things, but they also needed to be developed. The Lingyuan continent was stronger than the falling star continent, but not by much. If he used resources from a higher plane, even if he refined equipment and pills, it would be difficult to perfectly exert the effects. Okay. Jun Changshao got up and said, "Then I'll take my leave first." He did not waste any time and directly flew toward the Nine Heavens continent stronghold. Strange. Looking at Go Sheng's departing figure, Kuji Nan was puzzled. Why did Jun Patriarch cover his head with a black robe? City Lord. In the hall, a subordinate reported, "The Patriarch of the Sect of all times has come to visit." Mo Shangsheng and the elders who were discussing the matter widened their eyes. Wasn't the falling star continent stronghold sealed by the upper realm? Its qualification was also replaced by the soul continent. Why did that guy come here again? Mo Shangsheng sighed. He can still enter the plane battlefield at will after being stripped of his qualification. It's good to have someone up there. Swoosh! Without the slightest delay, he immediately flew out and cupped his hands with a smile. June Patriarch is here to visit. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Ji Nan was making money, and so was Mo Shangsheng. He even spent more spirit stones on healing pills than the other party, and earned more spirit stones than the other party. Therefore, Jun Changshao was a god of wealth in his eyes, and he could roughly guess that the other party was here to discuss business. As expected. After hearing Jun Changshao's intention, Mo Shangsheng's eyes lit up. Jun is not here to sell pills this time, but some ores and medicinal herbs of decent quality. Ores and medicinal herbs. Mo Shangsheng's interest was greatly reduced. There were countless ores and medicinal herbs in the Nine Heavens continent. He did not care for them. However, since they were here to trade, they might not be simple. Therefore, Mo Shangsheng cupped his hands and said, Jun Patriarch, please take them out and let me take a look. Swoosh! Swoosh! Jun Changshao took out a few of the most representative ores and medicinal herbs. Mo Shangsheng examined them one by one, and exclaimed, Jun Patriarch, these ores and medicinal herbs of yours are of extremely high quality. Do you need them? Yes. I currently have a few thousand caddies of ores and medicinal herbs here. We're all old acquaintances. You can name the price. Mo Shangsheng was shocked. Where did he get so many high-quality ores and medicinal herbs? Could it be that the people from the upper realms secretly sent them here? After some consideration, Mo Shangsheng bought all of Jun Changshao's ores and medicinal herbs at the price of 1,000,000 six-pointed star stones. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you. Smiles appeared on both of their faces. City Lord Mo Jun Changshao asked, do the other first-tier planes need these ores and medicinal herbs? They should. Mo Shangsheng said. Jun Changshao thought for a moment and said, I can go and talk business with them. Mo Shangsheng replied, it's best if Sect Master Jun doesn't go there during this period of time. Why? They are currently working together to attack the plane that replaced your Starfall continent's position. Jun Changshao suddenly remembered that his own plane was judged to have violated the rules, and another plane replaced it. He smiled and said, City Lord Mo, which plane is the unlucky plane that replaced our falling star continent? The Spiritus. Ga. The smile on Go Sheng's face froze. Mo Shangsheng didn't notice the change in his expression. He said, this Spiritus is a bit strong. They've made countless enemies in just a few months on the planar battlefield. Just now, we received news that Rose Empress led her subordinates to fight for opportunities, but they were trapped in Heartbreak Valley by experts from various planes. Wait. Where's Jun Patriarch? Jun Changshao, who was standing in front of him, was nowhere to be seen. Only a cold murderous intent was left behind. Mo Shangsheng was a wily old fox. He released his spiritual thoughts and saw that guy flying toward Heartbreak Valley. His eyes flashed with a faint murderous intent. He seemed to have understood something and said in surprise, is the Spiritus related to the falling star continent? Chapter 1170. Some time ago, streams of light shot into the sky from the dimensional battlefield, indicating the birth of a fortuitous opportunity. It attracted cultivators from various dimensions. However, Rose Empress was faster than them. She occupied the best location for the fortuitous opportunity and ordered her subordinates to seal it. Anyone who trespassed would be killed without mercy. This method was the same as when Jun Changshao discovered a mine in the falling star continent and ordered his disciples to seal off the valley. Natural treasures belonged to those who were capable. Rose Empress' method of sealing off the fortuitous opportunity and preventing others from entering was too domineering, so it immediately angered the major dimensions. The alliance led by the Red Sea continent also immediately dispatched cultivators after learning about this. It should have been a plot where everyone fought for the treasure, but it suddenly became a plot where everyone worked together to target the Soul Race continent. Jun Changshao killed tens of thousands of people because of a fortuitous opportunity, leaving behind a crazy legend. Rose Empress was strong, but she had never done such a fierce thing, so everyone was just a little afraid. They didn't believe that they couldn't deal with her if they worked together. Swish! 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 Outside the emotion-disturbed valley, streams of light flew over quickly. The number of powerful cultivators gathered in this area gradually increased, and the number of people was about to break through 100,000. Only tens of thousands of people came to fight for the fortuitous opportunity. The rest were all from the Red Sea continent and the other allied dimensions. They seemed to realize that this was an excellent opportunity, so they sent out their absolute strength, planning to destroy the Soul Race continent in one fell swoop. Of course. This time, the main force of the Soul Race continent still had to rely on the Vast continent and the Saros continent because the two first-tier dimensions sent out 6 Heaven-class cultivators and 100 Earth-class cultivators. Including the Heaven-class and Heaven-class cultivators, there were about 50,000 of them in total. Their combat power was stronger than the Starry Sky 5 tyrants. After all, the lowest cultivation level here was Wu Huang. More and more cultivators from various dimensions gathered, and the atmosphere became more and more oppressive. It wasn't hard to imagine. If they really fought, it would definitely be exciting. Empress. In the emotion-disturbed valley, in the area where the array was circulating, a Soul Race cultivator frowned and said, "Let's leave quickly." If it was just a weak dimension, the Soul Race continent might be able to fight back. However, there were so many of them, and the 6 leaders were all Heaven-class cultivators. It was too troublesome. The Rose Queen, who was wearing green armor that accentuated her perfect figure, sat on her throne. She supported her face with one hand and said in a lazy tone, "They can't beat me, so they work together. These planes are really weak." Humph! Hongyao flew over from afar and stood outside the heavy defense. He said coldly, "Rose Queen, you've angered everyone. If you don't want to die a horrible death, you'd better surrender now." Swish! A beam of light shot out from the valley. Not good. Hongyao turned pale with fright. Boom! At this moment, the Heaven-class powerhouse from the boundless continent appeared in front of her. He shattered the light with a powerful fist and said coldly, "Girl, your killing intent is too strong." Rose Queen's cherry lips curled into a smile. Same here. She had come to the planar battlefield with a relatively strong performance, but if she had been at a disadvantage, the enemy would definitely have wanted to kill her more than she did. For example, the Scarlet Sea continent. The Spiritus continent had just arrived at the battlefield and could not wait to bully them. If Rose Queen hadn't retaliated at that time, then the other party would have been even crueler than her. Why should I be bullied when I'm weak? Why should I be called murderous when I'm strong? Everything I do is my fault, and everything you do is right? I, Rose of Flowers, am so strong today because of my own abilities. You came to bully me and were bullied by me, so you have to kneel on the ground and admit it. In a world where the strong preyed on the weak, there were not so many messy reasons. Rose Queen, who had been fighting for thousands of years, understood the rules of the planar battlefield very well. So, after entering, she had always believed that those who bullied her would be returned 100-fold. As for these sanctimonious major planes, they seemed to be working together to uphold justice, but in fact, they were just suppressing others. As for the dirty things they did in private, they might not be as open and aboveboard as they were. Needless to say, Rose Queen's alliance with the various planes was quite similar to the alliance between the Demon Emperor and the righteous sects 10,000 years ago. The Demon Emperor broke the balance and threatened the righteous sect's interests, so he was destroyed. Rose Queen was now as strong as the Demon Emperor. The planes stationed on the battlefield all year round would naturally not let her go easily. If not for Jun Changshao killing tens of thousands of people with his sword and shocking everyone with his absolute strength, he and his disciples would also be targeted on the planar battlefield. In a world where martial arts were respected, there was never any justice or reason. Legends. They could only be fought with fists. Of course, there was also Jun Changshao, who was given a level 12 VIP 1 by charging money. Senior He. Hong Yao, who was protected, cupped his hands and said, "Don't talk nonsense with this woman. Why don't we just make a move?" He was worried that the treasure would appear at any time. If Rose Queen snatched it and fled without a fight, they would miss the opportunity for nothing. Senior He thought for a while and said indifferently, "Fellow cultivators, please help me break the barrier." Okay. The other 5 heaven-class experts instantly reached a tacit agreement. Swoosh! The red lotus demonic moon blade appeared out of thin air. Rose Queen, who was sitting on the throne, straightened her back. Her lazy eyes turned cold and sharp as she said, "Anyone who dares to take half a step into the mine will have to pay a terrible price." These words were very familiar. That's right. After monopolizing the Spirit Stone mine on the Falling Star continent, Jun Changshao had set it in front of the major sections. Bright Light Sacred Sect's Elder Yi did not believe him. In the end, he was shot down by Xiao Ziji with a field cannon. Sure enough, if they were not of the same family, they would not enter the same house. However, at that time, Jun Changshao was only facing a second-rate sect's elder and a group of third-rate and fourth-rate sections. The experts Rose Queen was facing now were at least 100 times stronger than him. Go! Senior He shouted coldly. He and his companions would not be intimidated by a single sentence. So, they immediately gathered a powerful force and blasted the barrier set up. The heaven-class experts from the first echelon were all at Wu Sheng's great perfection level in terms of strength. Now that the 6 of them were attacking together, the formation could be said to be earth-shattering. Some of the spectating cultivators shook their heads. Although the Soul Race continent was strong, the 2 first echelon planes had sent people over. It was obvious that they were determined to win. After this battle, the former should be removed from the plane. Boom! 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 6 violent forces pressed down from all directions, and the seemingly solid barrier immediately trembled violently. Rose Queen's expression changed slightly. The heaven-class experts from the first echelon were not to be underestimated. Boom! Boom! At this moment, the 6 forces that seemed to fill the sky pressed down crazily again. The barrier, which was already difficult to withstand, finally showed a large area shattering. Swish! Rose Queen tapped her toes and flew out with rose petals in the sky. The red lotus demonic moon blade behind her flickered with a scorching light. Go! The 6 experts from the vast continent and Saros continent rushed over. Rose Queen was the Soul Race's strongest force. As long as this woman was restrained, the Soul Race cultivators could be easily killed by others. Whoosh! 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 Many forces exploded from above and below. The space could not withstand it and instantly collapsed. In the distance, all the cultivators widened their eyes. 7 heaven-class experts were about to fight. The scene would definitely be dazzling. However, just as everyone was looking forward to it, a black light suddenly burst out from the distance and then suddenly stood in the area where the forces were about to collide. Boom! 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 Fist marks spread, and energy exploded. Whoosh! 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 The wind howled wantonly as if the space was wailing. Rose Queen, who was about to press forward, was stunned because the back of the black-clothed figure blocking the attack was very familiar. Ugly woman. Jun Changshao, who had rushed over in time, said with a sullen face, 1 against 6. Do you want to die? It's him. It's really him. Rose Queen's face lit up with joy, and the Empress's aura that had erupted earlier was immediately restrained. Go down. Jun Changshao still had a straight face as he said, leave this to me. Oh. Rose Queen put away the red lotus demonic moon blade and then landed in the defensive barrier. Looking at the extraordinarily handsome back, she smiled foolishly and said, my husband is so handsome in this black robe. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a strong wind blew, and the back of Jun Changshao's shiny head appeared. Chapter 1171. Before the Rose Queen was seriously injured and in imminent danger, Jun Changshao had already rushed over and neutralized all the 7 forces coming from above and below. After breaking through the sword and martial saints, he was now so strong that, at that moment, Jun Changshao quietly put the Shenyuan divine armor in his black robe into his space ring. Alright. So that's what it was. Here came the problem. Why was Jun Changshao wearing a black robe and deliberately covering his head? The reason was simple. After he used the one-kill punch, he lost all his black hair. What he couldn't stand the most was that after he returned to the faction, he sprayed hair growth medicine, but it didn't have any effect at all. The system's jinx was right. The side effects of the one-kill punch were useless even with the magically modified hair growth medicine. Because of this, Gosheng cursed the system in his heart for a long time. It couldn't take it anymore and could only force itself to shut down for a long time. As a respected patriarch of the falling star continent and a crazy killing god in the dimensional battlefield, it would be embarrassing for him to go out with his head bare. That was why he could only wear the black robe rewarded by the supreme product. From this, it could be seen that Jun Changshao still cared about his reputation. If it was the Purple King, he wouldn't be embarrassed even if he faced all the heroes in the world naked, let alone his head. However, after appearing in an extremely pretentious manner and breaking through the various powers, a strong wind blew away the black robe, and a shiny head was instantly revealed. The Rose Queen, who was already infatuated with the black robe, saw Gosheng's smooth head, and her beautiful eyes shone. She almost couldn't help but fly over and rub it. He knows that I like it. Is that why he shaved his head bald? He obviously cares about me, but he still acts like he doesn't care about me. He really doesn't mean what he says. The Rose Queen, who was imagining things, muttered shyly to herself. She looked at Jun Changshao with eyes full of love that only a wife would have. Don't flatter yourself. Jun Changshao could no longer suppress his irritation. He turned around and roared, "I'm not bald to cater to you. Bald brat." Hovering in midair, "Senior," he asked, "are you a martial practitioner of the soul race continent?" To be able to break through the combined power of the 6 of them in an instant, the strength of this bald guy at such a young age should not be underestimated. Shwa! Jun Changshao turned around and asked with bloodshot eyes, "What did you call me?" This gaze was extremely frightening, causing Senior He and the other experts to involuntarily shiver. Cold shivers. This was too much. Hong Yao, who was standing not far away, was suspended in the air. His hands and legs were trembling violently, and the muscles on his face were twitching as if they were cramping. "Palace Master Hong, what happened to you?" A heaven-class expert from Saros continent asked. He. Hong Yao stuttered for a long time before he finally managed to squeeze out the rest of the sentence, "It's Jun Changshao." Jun Changshao? The heaven-class experts frowned slightly. Suddenly, their expressions changed in unison as they cried out involuntarily, "The patriarch of the sect of all times with 20,000 slayings, Jun Changshao?" That's right, after Hong Yao finished speaking, his expression and mentality completely collapsed. Because even a fool could tell that Jun Changshao had suddenly killed his way here and stood in front of Rose Queen to protect her. The 2 of them must be related, the 2 of them must have something going on. If it were anyone else, no matter how strong their backer was, Hong Yao would not show it even if he was afraid. Only facing Jun Changshao, he almost collapsed to the ground. This is brother. This is master. This is father. My Scarlet Sea continent cannot afford to offend him. Recalling that he was in charge of organizing and leading this alliance, Hong Yao's blood boiled and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Jun Changshao did not release too much pressure, nor did he deliberately look at him. Just standing behind Rose Queen was enough to scare him into vomiting blood. The deterrence was truly tyrannical. Of course. Lingyun continent, Xingxian continent, and the other big shots of the alliance were also boiling and almost spitting out blood. Palace Master Hong. Jun Changshao coldly glanced at the 6 heaven-class experts and said in a deep voice, What grave mistake did the Soul Clan commit that all of you have to work together to deal with it? Hong Yao, why the fuck am I not drinking tea and taking a bath in the stronghold? Why the fuck am I here? So fragrant. In the Nine Heavens Continent stronghold, Mo Shangsheng was happily drinking tea. Husband. Rose Queen said, my Soul Clan replaced a bastard plane that violated the rules and came to the battlefield, and they fought to bully us. After being beaten away by me, they were not convinced and joined forces. Jun Changshao was speechless. The bastard plane you are talking about is my falling star continent. Hong Yao and the others gradually opened their mouths. Husband. This Rose Queen is Jun Changshao's wife. If there was a hole in the ground now, Hong Yao would definitely crawl into it and then bury himself, pretending that he never appeared and never existed. It was strange. Jun Changshao did not reject the title of husband and said coldly, you guys, who is the leader? Swish. 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 Lingyun Continent, Xingxian Continent, and the other powerhouses, as well as the 6 heaven-class experts, all pointed at Hong Yao. Fuck. Hong Yao's mentality was already broken, and now his teammates were tricking him again. That was really, Palace Master Hong. Jun Changshao touched his smooth head and said with a cold gaze, when will you change your habit of bullying newbies? Jun Patriarch. It's a misunderstanding. Hong Yao had a strong desire to live deep in his heart. Even if his expression was broken, he still did not give up and said, this is definitely a big misunderstanding. Speaking of this, he bent down. Holding up a few space rings with both hands, he said with a trembling voice, please listen to my explanation. Swish. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took back the rings. His spiritual senses entered them and found that there were a lot of spirit stones inside. He said, I'll give you a chance to explain. Hong Yao secretly heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly adjusted his thoughts and organized his words. He said, isn't this an opportunity? Our alliance is for the convenience of obtaining it. We are not deliberately targeting Madame June. Madame June? Rose Queen said secretly, the customs of the other planes seem to be that women follow men's surnames. What? Listening to this, the customs of the Soul Race continent were that men followed women's surnames? Outsiders had to call Go Xingyang Master Hua when they saw him? Is that so? Jun Changshao looked coldly at the big shots of the other planes. Yes. 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 Is that so? Jun Changshao asked again, raising the pitch of the word yes. After all, the big shots of the other planes had been scammed before and had rich experience. They instantly raised their space rings and said, yes, yes, yes. Swish. Jun Changshao waved his hand and skillfully took it back. He said, opportunities rely on luck. If you can't force it, then don't force it. Why do you have to form an alliance? Jun Patriarch has a point. Hong Yao cupped his hands and said, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Go, go. Jun Changshao said. Hong Yao turned and left with sweat all over his forehead. However, he didn't go far before he heard Jun Changshao say loudly, Palace Master Hong, Jun will personally visit you one day. Puff! Palace Master Hong spat out a mouthful of blood. He was obviously trying to scam him again. Rose Queen was his wife. He joined forces with the other planes to target her. The matter was so big. If he could settle it with just a few 100,000 spirit stones, he wouldn't be the crazy Jun Changshao. Swish! 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 The cultivators of the Lingyun continent, Xingxian continent, and other planes all retreated. However, before they left, they were all reminded by Go Sheng that they would visit him one day. The 6 of you should be from the first-tier Vast Continent and Shalos Continent, right? Just as the heaven-class experts were about to slip away, Jun Changshao said loudly, when you go back, please be sure to tell your base master that Jun will personally visit him soon. Off-screen voice, get your boss to prepare the money for me. The 6 heaven-class experts' mouths twitched. Then, they quickly disappeared with their people. In just a moment, the 60,000 to 70,000 cultivators who had gathered in the area where the opportunity had appeared had disappeared without a trace. Even the cultivators who were purely here to snatch the opportunity had hidden as far away as possible. An earth-shattering battle had ended before it even started. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "This is deterrence." Suddenly, he turned around and grabbed her hand. He said with a cold gaze, "What are you doing?" Swish! Rose Queen coiled around Jun Changshao like a snake. Her other hand was placed on his head at lightning speed. She smiled and said, "Husband, your head is so round and smooth." Chapter 1172. Queen Rose didn't have a bald head fetish. The main reason was that even if Jun Changshao lost his hair, it wouldn't affect his looks at all. On the contrary, he looked even cuter than before, so she couldn't help but want to touch him. If it were Du Nan, I would have kicked him out of the dimensional battlefield. Therefore, if Queen Rose really had a bald head fetish, it was only Go Xing himself. At this moment, she was like a soft snake, coiling in front of her husband. No matter how he tried to block her, he still couldn't avoid being touched on the head. To be honest, Jun Changxiao's head was big and round. Not to mention Queen Rose, even he felt very comfortable touching it. Ding! The host has spent 1,000 contribution points and obtained a modified wig X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 6500070000. Go Sheng, who couldn't take it anymore, spent 5,000 contribution points in the mid-level store and bought a wig to put on his head. However, what made him vomit blood was that although this so-called modified wig looked like real hair after wearing it, due to the influence of the environment and time, the hairstyle was actually an afro. Ha ha ha. The professionally trained system couldn't help but laugh. Queen Rose said rather dejectedly, "You look good bald. Why do you have to hide it?" Jun Changshao forcefully suppressed the irritation in his heart and said with a straight face, "First of all, I'm not obligated." The camera turned spiritually. Holding all kinds of resources with both hands, the expression on his face was extremely interesting. Queen Rose put another space ring on it, clapped her hands, and smiled. "I, Rose of Flowers, am not someone who relies on my husband's help. These are your rewards for helping me. Big sister. You're so cooperative, you're making me a failure." However, Queen Rose's gaze was cold. "I won't let go of the planes that came to besiege us just now. In fact, without Jun Changxiao's sudden rescue, although it would be difficult for her to fight against so many planes, she would still make the other party pay a painful price. What do you want to do? What does my husband want to do?" Jun Changxiao looked at her in bewilderment. Suddenly, he seemed to have understood that this woman was thinking the same thing as him. They were going to visit all the major planes one by one. The system said, "This is the rhythm of a husband and wife working together to blackmail." Ding! Epic quest completed. Commencing calculation. Ding! The host has successfully protected his loved ones and has met the prerequisites. The epic level mission has been completed with a completion rate of 150%. The host has received 75,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 1,400,007,0000. Ding! Overflow of sect contribution points. Ha ha ha. The system laughed unscrupulously. "I finally got it right for once. I didn't get slapped in the face, ha ha ha." Although its laughter was bold and unrestrained, it was more desolate. After all, it had been slapped in the face all year round. Today, it finally saw the light of day, and the clouds parted to see the moon. It was the first anniversary. Please give the strongest face-slapping system a round of applause. Jun Changshao squatted on the ground and grabbed his afro with both hands. He howled in his heart, "Even the epic level quest thinks that she's my family. Don't be stubborn." The system said, "Accept reality." Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Level Quest 11. You have received Divine Level Talent Modification Liquid X1, Divine Level Sword Path Talent Liquid X1, Opening Seal Talisman, 3, X1. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing Epic Level Quest 12. You have received Divine Level Talent Modification Liquid X2, Divine Level Formation Path Talent Liquid X1, Divine Level 7 Mysterious Sunglow Fragment Scroll X1, Divine Level Weapon Modification Stone exclusive to the Lingyan Pavilion X1. Frequent notifications sounded in his ears. Comparing the rewards of the two epic level quests, Shur 12's quest was obviously better than Shur 11's. The reason was that one only completed 100% while the other completed 150%. The extra 50% might be due to the fact that after Jun Changshao appeared, he used his powerful deterrence to scare off dozens of realms that had joined forces. Jun Changshao's happiest moment every time the epic level quest was given out. But now, he was pulling his hair with difficulty. He looked like he was about to break down. Why was it so difficult? Because the modified wig had turned from an afro to a buzz cut. It was too short and hard to grab. This product that would automatically change its hairstyle every once in a while, give me a few hundred of them. Buy. Jun Changshao opened the advanced merchant shop. Because he was frustrated, he used all his excess contribution points to buy elixirs and weapon recipes. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a majestic wave of air surged out. Jun Changshao's realm had also advanced from the peak of the sword and martial saints to the great perfection level. Feeling the more explosive power, as well as his own deeper understanding of the heaven, earth, and space attributes, he clenched his fists and said to himself, "I've become stronger again." The system complained, "You've become bald too. Did you guys hear? The husband of the Rose Empress from the Soul Clan continent is Jun Changshao. Oh my god. This is breaking news. No wonder a new realm is so powerful. It turns out that there's an amazing man behind them. Didn't Jun Changshao come to the dimensional battlefield and do whatever he wants? They're really a couple. The Scarlet Sea continent and Lingyun continent joined forces to attack Jun Changshao's wife. Didn't they kick an iron plate full of thorns? Sigh, the major realms are going to bleed again. Just as everyone was discussing, Jun Changshao had already appeared outside the Scarlet Sea continent's stronghold. A light breeze blew. The curly hair on his forehead fluttered. At this time, Go Sheng's hairstyle changed from a buzz cut to a curly hairstyle. The system couldn't help but sigh. Uncle Jiao was the first person to have this hairstyle. The host is now the second. You. Scram. Okay. The Rose Empress also followed. She stood behind Jun Changshao and kept staring at the back of his head. She had the urge to raise her hand and pull off his wig. Shwa! Shwa! Hong Yao flew out of the stronghold with a few elders. He cupped his hands in a trembling manner and said, "Sect Master Jun, let's listen to Jun first." Jun Changshao waved his hand and interrupted. The Soul Continent and your Scarlet Sea Continent have no enmity before, right? No. Then why did you send people to bully them when they just arrived? You failed to bully them and got bullied instead. It can only be said that your skills are inferior. You have no objections to this, right? No objections. Since you have no objections, why did you join forces with the other realms to continue making things difficult for them? Hong Yao's forehead was dripping with sweat. Brother. Grandpa. Don't you just want money? Don't beat around the bush, okay? I'll give as much as you want. Jun Changshao was trying to reason with him, not extort him. So, he took out an abacus made of pure gold and did some careful calculations. Then, he said, "I'll add up to 5 million for mental damage, loss of working time, and nutrition. Here. I'll give." At this time, Palace Head Hong had to quickly send the demon couple away even if he had to sell everything he had. Palace Head Hong. At the end, Jun Changshao said, "Don't bully newcomers in the future. After all, it's not easy for anyone. Hong Yao raised his hand and swore, if my Scarlet Sea continent dares to bully newcomers in the future, I'm willing to be struck by lightning. First, he provoked Jun Changshao and then Rose Queen. These were two extremely heavy lessons, so as long as he was still the leader of the stronghold, he would not let his subordinates engage in battlefield violence again. Let's go. Jun Changshao waved his hand. Rose Queen followed. On the way, she smiled and said, husband's methods of extortion are so gentle. If it were me, I would definitely beat him up first. Jun Changshao was about to go crazy. This woman kept calling him husband, making him feel like his mind was about to explode. Endure. I'll endure. Since he didn't like it, why did Jun Changshao let Rose Queen follow him? Because this matter was related to her, he could justifiably extort resources from the various realms. Swish! His magically modified hairstyle changed again. His curly hair turned into a swept-back hairstyle. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed. He first put on his windbreaker and dazzling sunglasses. Finally, he hung the cigar in his mouth and said, when we arrive at the Lingyun continent, when I shake my shoulder, you go forward and catch my clothes. Why? Don't ask why, just do as I say. Okay, husband. Chapter 1173. Outside the Lingyun stronghold. Jun Changshao stopped with his hair combed back, a windbreaker, sunglasses, and a cigar in his mouth. At this time, if a disciple followed behind him and sang superstars in troubled times, he would definitely be able to bring out the patriarch of the sect of all times. Unfortunately, Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji were not here. But the one behind him was Rose Queen. This woman was tall and beautiful. She also had the aura of a high and mighty queen. In an instant, she made Gosheng look like a bodyguard who wore sunglasses and a black suit and didn't smile. This taught them that they should never be in the same frame with people with strong auras, because it was easy to become a green leaf. Swoosh! Jun Changshao shrugged. Rose Queen forgot her previous warning and did not go forward to catch it. She let the windbreaker fall to the ground. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. On the way here, he had reminded her almost 800 times. Why did she drop the ball at the crucial moment? Oh! Rose Queen's reflexes were a little slow. She picked up the windbreaker, patted off the dust and put it on Jun Changshao again. Big sister. I told you to catch it, put it on my hand, and return it. It's fine if you didn't do it, but why did you put it on me again? I didn't notice just now. Do it again. Rose Queen transmitted her voice. Jun Changshao almost vomited blood. Forget it, forget it. Gosheng adjusted his state of mind and looked at the frightened big shot who walked out of the stronghold. Don't talk. Listen to Jun first. This guy used the same excuse that he used to blackmail the Scarlet Sea continent on the Lingyun continent. The other party was speechless and could only compensate with spirit stones. Before leaving, they had to repeatedly promise that they would not bully the newcomers. The third stop. Shengxian continent. However, just as Jun Changshao walked to the stronghold and was about to shake off the windbreaker, Rose Queen took it for him. What kind of cooperation is this? This pretentious guy, can I still happily pretend? It didn't matter if he could act tough or not. The key was that he needed money and compensation. Jun Changshao and the Rose Queen went to 8 realms and obtained 20 million spirit stones. The Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent were the main culprits, so the compensation was higher. The other planes were only accomplices, so the compensation was not much. When it came to extorting money, Jun Changshao had always followed the principle of not overdoing it, because it could easily backfire and make the situation go out of control. Rose Queen, who was following him, didn't say anything. She had a look that said, I'm relieved to leave this matter to my husband. Of course. When it came to splitting the money, this woman became shrewd. Jun Changshao had intended to give her 30% and take 70% for himself. However, she disagreed and even rolled her eyes. 50-50. Please. Go Xing naturally wouldn't back down. He said indifferently, I helped you resolve the crisis, so it's only right that I take 70%. Rose Queen said, I've already paid you. These resources must be divided equally between the two of us. Besides, if it weren't for me, would you have such a good opportunity to extort me? Jun Changshao compromised. I'll take 60%, you take 40%. 50-50, Rose Queen said. Jun Changshao didn't want to waste time because of a small profit, so he said impatiently, okay, we'll split it 50-50. Thus, on the way to the vast continent, the two of them divided the 20 million spirit stones. In this regard, Rose Queen was really meticulous. She divided the spirit stones of different qualities and levels equally, not letting Go Xing gain any advantage at all. The system sighed. The host's wife is good at running a household. Get lost. Jun Changshao cursed and continued to walk to the vast continent. However, Rose Queen said solemnly, this first-tier plane may not be willing to pay. TSK Jun Changshao said disapprovingly, as long as I have my eyes on my prey, even if it's a miser, I can pluck all the feathers off his body. Is that so? Rose Queen smiled and said, I'm looking forward to it. Swish! The swept-back hair on Jun Changshao's head turned into a mushroom. It had to be said that this guy's foundation was good. No matter what hairstyle he had, he could perfectly control it. Pfft! Seeing the mushroom-like head, Rose Queen couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Vast Continent's stronghold. Jia Haojia, who was sitting at the head of the table, had a worried look on his face. A few heaven-class rankers went to help the others deal with Rose Queen, but in the end, a Jun Changshao appeared out of nowhere. Moreover, the two of them were still husband and wife. This was a bit troublesome. Everyone. Jia Haojia's expression was ugly. Do you have a good plan? An elder said, according to the information this old man has gathered, Jun Changshao is a person who likes to extort. The Nine Heavens continent has suffered a loss before. Humph. An elder with a more irritable personality said indifferently, our vast continent is not the Nine Heavens continent. How can we submit? A few heaven-class rankers informed them of Jun Changxiao's visit, and they guessed that he was here to extort money. That's right. An elder said coldly, our vast continent is a first-tier plane after all. If we are extorted by Jun Changxiao, how can we continue to walk in the martial arts world in the future? Jia Haojia fell silent once again. Patriarch. A respected old man with gray hair said, although Jun Changxiao is strong, he is still against the rules. Even the stronghold has been sealed by the upper realm. We don't have to be afraid of him. Not to mention, it's impossible for that guy to break into the stronghold. What does Elder Dan mean? If Jun Changxiao comes, this old man will go and meet him first. If it's really not possible, then tell everyone not to go out for the time being. Jia Haojia understood. Elder Dan was telling him that he would not compromise with Jun Changxiao. All right. He slapped the armrest and said coldly, I'd like to see if this crazy killing god dares to extort our vast continent. Nine Heavens continent. Mo Shangsheng put down his teacup and said in disbelief, so Empress Rose's husband is Jun Changxiao. No wonder he dares to be so unscrupulous in the dimensional battlefield. That was close. That was close. Fortunately, I didn't follow the Scarlet Sea continent to deal with the Soul Clan continent. Mo Shangsheng was very glad that he did not participate in the previous decision. At the same time, the corners of his mouth curled up into a gloating smile. He had been blackmailed by Jun Changxiao before, so he had always been unhappy. Now that the vast continent and Saros continent had provoked that guy, they would definitely be in a worse state than him. Comfortable. Really comfortable. City Lord. An elder said, the vast continent cares a lot about their reputation. I'm afraid they won't compromise with Jun Changxiao. Mo Shangsheng shook his head and said, if they compromise, they might be able to save a lot of money. If they don't, then they'll be extorted by that guy until they go bankrupt. Because he had experienced the pain, he understood Jun Changshao very well. Ta! In the sandstorm area, a foot suddenly appeared. The camera followed up. Jun Changshao, wearing sunglasses and holding a cigar, stood in the vast continent's stronghold. Swoosh! He raised his head, lifted his hips, and shook his shoulders. His windbreaker fell gracefully. Empress Rose caught it, put it on her wrist, and returned to her original position. Didn't they establish a tacit understanding just like that? Jun Changshao took out a loudspeaker and shouted loudly, "Patriarch of the sect of all times, Jun Changshao, has come to visit today." Huff! Huff! Suddenly, a stream of light flew out from the stronghold. A tsunami of air burst out and quickly gathered into a palm print, pressing down with the power to shake the space. A welcome ceremony? Jun Changshao sneered and stood proudly in place. Huff huff huff. Sword and martial aura spread around him like rolling clouds and mist, then he greeted it with a fist. Boom, the sky exploded, and the space collapsed. Whoosh! The palm print that emerged from the stronghold was crushed into nothingness on the spot. Elder Shan, who had used his move, retreated until he could barely stabilize his body. He could not help but spit out blood, and his eyes were filled with horror. Chapter 1174. Elder Dan directly rushed out of the stronghold and exploded, clearly telling Jun Changshao that they would not compromise. Very stubborn. Very much like a first-tier plane. However, Jun Changshao was not to be trifled with. Since the vast continent had welcomed him in such a manner, he had no choice but to return the favor. He, who had just broken through to the peak of Wusheng, also exploded, sending the other party flying back and almost falling to the ground. Elder Dan was shocked. He was a heaven-class expert, but he could not even take a punch from that guy. A few hours ago, he could take it because Jun Changshao was only at the peak of Wusheng at that time. But now, not to mention him as a heaven-class expert, even if there were two more, he might not be able to take it because Jun Changshao, whose realm had increased, was absolutely invincible at the same level. This was very strong. Queen Rose said in surprise, "My husband seems to have become stronger again. Could it be related to baldness?" "Whether I'm strong or not has nothing to do with baldness." Jun Changshao roared. Queen Rose smiled and said, "The more you explain, the more you try to cover it up." Jun Changshao suppressed his anger, turned to look at the stronghold of the vast continent, and shouted angrily, "Jun Changshao, quickly pay up." Since the other party used such a ceremony to welcome him, they definitely did not follow the procedure. It was as simple as it could be. Jun Changshao. Elder Dan pressed down on his damaged meridians and said in a deep voice, "Why should the vast continent give you money?" Jun Changshao covered his face and laughed. "Come on, you're a heaven-class expert after all, why would you ask such a stupid question?" "Because he's my husband," Queen Rose said. Jun Changshao wanted to transform into the Roaring Emperor again. However, he suppressed it. After all, this reason was invulnerable to ask for money. Go Sheng had changed. For money, he actually, stop, he was like this from the beginning, okay? "Old man, I want to ask you, why should the vast continent deal with the Soul Clan?" Jun Changshao asked. Elder Dan fell silent. He knew that if he said that he was going to help the other planes, he would definitely be scolded until he was speechless. "In this world where the strong prey on the weak, you actually dare to ask me why?" What a joke, Jun Changshao mocked mercilessly. Indeed. In a world where martial arts were respected, there was no need to talk about why one should do anything. If you insist on giving me an excuse, then I'm happy to do so. Jun Patriarch. Jia Haojie walked out of the main hall and cupped his fists. The vast continent didn't know that you and Rose Empress were husband and wife. Please forgive us for our previous offense. It was impossible to give him money, but it was possible to resolve the conflict. What's more, the heaven-class experts he sent did not harm his woman. It was too much to ask for money. Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, "Come out for a moment and let me slap you. I'll forgive you, and we'll be even." Jia Haojie's face darkened. He was the leader of a stronghold on duty in the vast continent. Being slapped by him was equivalent to having his dignity trampled on. "Humph," Elder Dan sneered and said, "Jun Patriarch, we've already apologized. If you don't accept it and insist on blackmailing us, then you can continue to stand outside." He was sent back by a punch, and many of his meridians were damaged. He no longer had the courage to go out and meet that guy. "What?" Jun Changshao touched his nose and said with a smile, "So you're saying that you're fearless because you have a stronghold to protect you? Otherwise?" Elder Dan sneered and said, "You can still barge in." "Oh, right. Your Falling Star Continent stronghold has been sealed and replaced by the Soul Race's continent. You've lost the right to declare war on other planes." No wonder he dared to fight Jun Changshao to the end. If the Falling Star Continent stronghold had not been sealed by the upper realm and still had the right to declare war on other planes, he and Jia Haojie would definitely have to think carefully and follow their hearts. "Replaced by the Soul Race's continent?" Queen Rose muttered. Suddenly, she came to a realization and said, "The bastard plane that violated the rules earlier was the Falling Star Continent?" Jun Changshao shrugged and said, "I didn't expect that the unlucky plane that replaced my Falling Star Continent would be the Soul Race's continent." Rose Queen almost couldn't resist the urge to rush over and pull his wig off. Whoosh! Jun Changshao waved his hand and summoned a chair. Then, he sat down and crossed his legs. He said, "I'll count to 10. If you can't take out 10 million spirit stones, don't blame me for being ruthless." 10 million spirit stones? The sneer on Elder Dan's face deepened. If it weren't for his status, he would have said directly, "You're dreaming." 1. Jun Changshao shouted. Jia Haojie and Elder Dan clasped their hands and sneered. They looked like they were saying, "We're standing in the stronghold. Come in and fight us if you can." 2. 3. With every word Jun Changshao shouted, his tone became solemn, and his eyes gradually became emotionless. 10. All of a sudden, he skipped the rest without following the procedure and directly shouted the last count. Then, he disappeared from the chair and appeared in front of the boundless mainland's stronghold barrier. He raised his fist abruptly and gathered an explosive wave to blast it. At that moment, Jun Changshao was very serious. Every time this expression appeared, it meant that he was serious. "Naive. You're overestimating yourself." The smile on Jia Haojie and Elder Dan's faces deepened. They didn't deny that Jun Changshao was strong, but to use his fist to blast the stronghold was really overestimating himself and underestimating the defensive barrier set up by the upper realm. Queen Rose also frowned and said, "Husband, is he crazy again?" The defensive barrier around the stronghold was even stronger than the deep space of a plane. Even a void-breaking realm expert couldn't shake it, but he dared to blast it with his fist. If there was a backlash, if he's disabled, I'll take care of him. Queen Rose thought to herself. Whoosh! Whoosh! Waves of air erupted, extremely tyrannical. However, just as all kinds of special effects were activated to the extreme, Jun Changshao's right fist suddenly stopped. He opened his palm and the pocket-sized flower opened its mouth to bite the barrier of the stronghold. Production team, motherfucker, compensate me for my expenses. Crack! 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 The summoned flower gnawed at the barrier of the vast continent's stronghold, and soon a big hole was bitten out. Swoosh! Jun Changshao raised his hand and pointed his finger at it. With just a light touch, the defensive barrier around the stronghold collapsed as if it was weaker than paper. Once the flower bit a hole, the tyrannical defense system was equivalent to losing its effectiveness. Thud! Jun Changshao walked toward the dumbfounded Jia Haojie and Elder Dan. With every step he took, the Xianyuan divine armor was on his body, the Jade Dragon Asks the Heaven's sword was hanging on his waist, and the heavenly spear of 9 heavens and 10 earths was in his hand. His robe fluttered in the wind, as if he had instantly turned into Zhao Zilong of Changshan. "My husband, you're so handsome." The Rose Queen suddenly turned into a little girl who was obsessed with love. Swoosh! When he was 10 feet away from Jia Haojie and Elder Dan, Jun Changshao stopped. The heavenly spear of 9 heavens was pressed against the ground, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, outlining a rare evil smile. He said, "Both of you, I'm coming in." Swoosh! After that, a powerful stream of light burst out close to the ground, tearing a long trench and slamming into the main hall. Boom! The building that had existed for thousands of years collapsed, stirring up dust all over the sky. Huff! Huff! At the same time, the horrifying pressure from the perfected sword and martial sages erupted from Jun Changxiao's body. As long as the vast continent's martial artists in the stronghold touched it, they felt as if they were carrying a mountain, and their faces instantly became extremely ferocious. Jun Patriarch. Jia Haojie finally recovered from his stupor and said quickly, "The vast continent will pay. The vast continent will pay spirit stones, 20 million. Here. Here. Here." Chapter 1175. The stronghold barrier of the dimensional battlefield was set up by the upper realm. In terms of defensive strength, no one in the mortal world could break through it. Jia Haojie and Elder Dan relied on this to make a fuss in front of Jun Changshao. "Come on. Come in and hit me." It was only when Jun Changshao stopped fully armed and destroyed the hull that represented the dignity of the dimension with one shot that the two realized that he really came in. In an instant, Jia Haojie's stubbornness and backbone disappeared without a trace. He immediately followed his heart and chose to compensate. Since he was scared, he was willing to compensate. Jun Changshao would definitely not deliberately make things difficult for him, so he asked for 20 million. However, seeing that the other party agreed without hesitation, he could not help but break down. "Am I fucking underpaid?" "Yes." The system said, "After all, the vast mainland and the 9 heavens mainland are first-tier dimensions." Jun Changshao was sure that, at most, he would just lick it back. He said, "Including the service fees for pets and the depreciation of equipment, your continent needs to add another 10 million. Ha! Jia Haojie was dumbfounded. 20 million spirit stones was already a lot. Taking it out would definitely break his bones and tendons. Adding another 10 million would definitely bankrupt him. "You're not giving." Jun Changxiao's face darkened. A terrifying aura erupted. The veins of the vast mainland martial artists in the entire stronghold bulged, and they were drenched in sweat. Go Sheng was now Wu Sheng's great fulfillment. If he broke through again, he would be a martial emperor. His powerful strength was not something a few heaven-class characters could compare to. Therefore, with a little pressure, he could turn this place into a bloodbath. Why did Jia Haojie cower so quickly? It was because he had no use in the stronghold. Once this guy entered the territory, everyone, including himself, would become weeds that he could cut at will. Moreover, there was also the Rose Queen. If this couple caused a ruckus in his stronghold, the vast mainland would be removed from the dimensional battlefield before the next day. Here. Under pressure and threat, Jia Haojie could only continue to compromise. If he had known this would happen, he would not have done it in the first place. In fact, he could not be blamed for his stubbornness earlier. After all, no one would have thought that this guy actually had the space-time worm that could easily break through space barriers. Compromising saved him a lot of money. If he didn't compromise, he would be extorted by that guy until he went bankrupt. These two sentences came from Imo Shangsheng's mouth, and now it seemed like he was right. If Jia Haojie were to take out 30 million spirit stones, which were no weaker than the hexagram stone, he could really declare bankruptcy. As for Elder Dan, during the whole process of the Patriarch's compromise and the payment of money, he had been transparent from beginning to end. The firm and unyielding attitude he had shown during the meeting had long disappeared. "Hey! Jun Changshao looked at him and said, "How about we go out and fight?" After breaking through Wusheng's consummation, although he could feel that his power was much stronger than before, he had not fully unleashed it yet. It would be a good idea to test it against a heaven-class character of the same level. Elder Dan covered his chest with one hand and said with a pale face, "When I fought with Jun Patriarch just now, my meridians were damaged. I can't fight anymore." His words had two meanings. One was that he admitted that Go Sheng was stronger than him, and the other was that he was injured. He was indeed worthy of being called an expert among experts. Even when he was scared, he was still fresh and refined. "All right." After Jun Changshao counted 30 million spirit stones, he cupped his hands and said, "Jun won't disturb you any longer. I'll take my leave first." Although this guy looked calm, he was actually very excited. After all, there were so many spirit stones comparable to the hexagram stone used for the development of the sect. It would definitely be able to upgrade the sect to another level. Plop! After Jun Changshao left the stronghold, Jia Haojie finally couldn't help but collapse. In the vast continent, he was considered a very wealthy person. Now that he had to hand over 30 million spirit stones, he instantly fell from the richest man to a beggar. Patriarch, Elder Dan came over to support him. "Get lost!" Jia Haojie said angrily, "Get lost. If I didn't listen to your bullshit suggestion and choose not to compromise, I wouldn't have lost so many spirit stones." No, his heart was too painful. It was a heart-wrenching pain. The first-tier vast continent had completely lost to Jun Changshao today. It could be said that they had lost money and face. If this matter spread out, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. Using money to resolve grudges was already not bad. One had to know that Elder Dan's attack without warning was enough to give Jun Changshao a reason to massacre the entire vast continent. Half. On the way to Shalos continent, Rose Queen said. Jun Changshao said angrily, "I was the one who used the time worm to break open the stronghold barrier, and I was the one who asked for the money. Why should I give you half?" Rose Queen stopped and said, "In a world where the strong preys on the weak, you actually asked me why. What a joke." This despicable woman actually copied his words. Forget it, forget it. Jun Changshao took a few steps back, keeping a certain distance from her, and assumed Huang Feihong's posture, and said, "You and I will fight around, and win half." Previously, the quality of the spirit stones was not too high, so there was no need to fight for small profits. The vast continent's spirit stones were much stronger, so they would definitely not take out 15 million. Moreover, Rose Queen's strength was not ordinary. He wanted to see if he could press her face to the ground and rub it with all his might without using his trump card. The system collapsed. With the host's mentality, "I really don't understand, what exactly does the most supreme queen of the soul race see in him? Really? Really? Alright." Rose Queen's body was enveloped in green attributes, condensing into a battle armor, and said, "If I win, half, half. If I lose, all the spirit stones will be given to me." "Sure." After Jun Changshao finished speaking, he immediately realized that something was wrong, and roared, "Is there any difference between your words and what you said earlier about being my servant if you lose, and being your master if I lose?" Rose Queen laughed, "You still remember the past so clearly, husband really has me in his heart." Jun Changshao said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Cut the crap, if you win, all the spirit stones are yours, if I win, all the spirit stones are mine." "Sure. Come, let's fight." Hoo, the cultivation of sword and martial saint perfection erupted in an instant, forming a turbulent wave of air. However, because he used too much force, the wig was blown away, and his shiny head was exposed. Jun Changshao, Rose Queen, ha 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 ha. The system's unbridled laughter echoed in his ears. Although Jun Changshao's wig collapsed, he couldn't care less. His fists gathered explosive power, ready to strike at any time. Rose Queen also became serious. After all, her husband was very strong now. Hoo. Two powerful waves of air filled the battlefield, and the air gradually became extremely austere. A wonderful battle between husband and wife was about to begin in the plain battlefield. However, just as the two of them were about to make their move, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky, and a deep voice sounded. Jun Changshao of the Falling Star Continent broke the rules and entered the plain battlefield, and used illegal means to break the stronghold barrier of the vast continent. He will receive the most severe punishment from the upper realm. Chapter 1176. His deep voice reverberated throughout the dimensional battlefield, clearly reaching everyone's ears. Mo Shangsheng, who was sitting in the main hall and waiting for news of the vast mainland's misfortune, spat out his tea. He was not concerned about breaking the rules. After all, hadn't that guy been breaking the rules since he entered the dimensional battlefield? What really made Mo Shangsheng incredulous was that Jun Changshao had actually used illegal means to break the vast mainland stronghold's barrier. Oh my god! That was very, very scary. Ever since the dimensional battlefield was created by the upper realm, the stronghold was defined as unbreakable. It could only be done by declaring war and punishing ghosts on the battlefield. Therefore, as long as everyone did not make mistakes and did not accept the challenge, there would always be a very safe place to stay even if the enemies were all over the battlefield. Now that Jun Changshao had a way to break it, did that not mean that he could enter at will and extort people at will? Jun Patriarch. Mo Shangsheng said with a serious expression, "You're in trouble now. If it was just a crazy massacre, the upper realm might be lenient if there were people there. However, this kind of behavior of breaking other dimensions was definitely shaking the basic rules defined by the upper realm. Especially. In the end, it was not a punishment, but a severe punishment. This meant that the higher realms were serious, and they wanted to kill Jun Changshao. City Lord. An elder hurried over and said in shock, "The sky outside has changed." Swoosh! Mo Shangsheng hurried out and saw that the area in the sky that he could see was filled with rolling dark clouds. The originally desolate and gray environment seemed to have turned into a dark hell. The upper realm is angry. The upper realm is angry. The vast mainland stronghold. The space cracks that were bitten by the space-time worms were slowly recovering. Jia Haojia, who was paralyzed on the ground, heard the deep voice and suddenly felt like a wronged child. Tears flowed uncontrollably. Patriarch. Elder Dan said excitedly and tremblingly, The upper realm is going to take revenge for us. They're going to seek justice for us. To be honest, Jun Changshao's act of breaking the stronghold by force was indeed domineering. However, did this mean that the vast mainland was innocent? No. They weren't good people either. It was just that they had met Jun Changshao. Because if you are strong, you can bully others as you wish. If you meet someone stronger and get bullied, don't pretend to be an honest person or a pitiful person. The voice from the upper realm resounded in the sky. The dark clouds that filled the battlefield were like an army pressing down on the border. All the martial artists were shocked and guessed that Jun Changshao was really going to be in big trouble this time. It's over. There was worry in Ku Jinnan's eyes. Last time, they were punished for cheating in the Azura arena, so they only sent battlefield specters. This time, the battle array was simply vast. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, no matter where they were on the battlefield, all the cultivators could clearly see black shadows flying out from the dark clouds in the sky like locusts. Go! Let's go take a look. At this moment, the heavens and earth were filled with killing intent, but it still could not stop the strong desire of the cultivators to watch the show. Palace Master. In the main hall, an elder asked, "Are you going or not?" Hong Yao, who had just been extorted of a wave of money and had yet to come back to his senses, after a difficult decision, he said, "Yes." The upper realm had come to punish Jun Changshao, and with such a great force, he definitely could not sit still. Sigh. After the scar healed, he forgot the pain. Of course, Hong Yao did not have the mentality of fishing in troubled waters and adding insult to injury. He purely went over to watch the show to broaden his horizons. Whoosh! Whoosh! For a moment, the cultivators from all over the world rushed toward the area with the densest dark clouds at the fastest speed. It was no exaggeration. When Jun Changshao was punished by the upper realm, all the forces on the battlefield were mobilized. Even Mo Shangsheng, who had always been cautious and intelligent, could not sit still and rushed over with a group of masters. However, when they arrived at the scene, they were all dumbfounded. In their field of vision, the battlefield specters wearing black armor and holding scythes lined up neatly. Because there were too many of them, the entire ground seemed to be dyed black. Hiss! Mo Shangsheng sucked in a breath of cold air. He only roughly scanned with his spiritual senses and roughly deduced that there were at least 100,000 battlefield specters. Although they lowered their heads and did not officially activate, from the aura they emitted, their strength was at least at the black level. Comparable to 100,000 half-step wusheng, fully armed and gathered together, the scene presented could be said to be exceptionally shocking. Moreover, this was only the lowest level. The further his spiritual senses probed, the more he found that there were many earth-level. When Mo Shangsheng locked onto the front row, the muscles on his face finally could not help but stiffen, and he said in horror in his heart, at least 100 heaven-level. After the cultivators who came one after another saw the strength of 100,000 battlefield specters, there was no one who did not explode mentally, no one who was not shocked. With such terrifying strength, not to mention destroying a few dimensions, even destroying all the dimensions on the battlefield would be a piece of cake. A big battle array. A super big battle array. Even if Jun Changshao was obliterated, he would definitely be remembered by future generations, because since the opening of the dimensional battlefield, no one had been punished with such a high standard. This feels good. Hong Yao and many of the big bosses of the dimensions looked calm on the surface, but they were overjoyed on the inside. With such a level of punishment, no matter how high that fellow's cultivation was, there was no way he could survive. The camera turned again, sorry, because there were too many battlefield specters. It took a long time to lock onto Jun Changshao, who seemed to be drowned in the inky black waves. At this moment, Go Sheng's expression was very interesting. When he heard that the upper realm wanted to punish him, he looked indifferent. After all, he had been to the battlefield many times, and just as the readers thought, they were here to give him experience bags again. However, when he saw the black mass of battlefield specters, with 100 heaven-level specters at the front, his heart and expression could not remain calm. The upper realm. You're too ruthless. Whoosh! Rose Queen took out the red lotus demonic moon blade, and the green armor on her body became more solid. Then, she approached Jun Changshao, her beautiful eyes filled with battle intent. Big sister. Are you going to fight with them? If there were only a dozen heaven-level battlefield specters, Jun Changshao would not care. However, there were 100 of them, and almost 100,000 of them were holding the line. If they fought, even if he was not blasted to pieces, they could drag him to death. Run! Run quickly! It was rare for Go Sheng to be afraid. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, layers of solid barriers descended from the dark clouds, like a big pot that was upside down in the sky above Jun Changshao and the 100,000 battlefield specters, forming an absolute lockdown area. There's no hope of running, the system said helplessly. Jun Changshao's expression became serious. The upper realm had made such a big scene and locked down this area. It was obvious that they wanted to kill him. Husband. Rose Queen said, don't be afraid, I'll protect you. In this situation, you don't have to protect me. You should protect yourself first. Jun Changshao. Suddenly, a voice came from the sky. You repeatedly violated the rules and entered the dimensional battlefield, and you used illegal means to destroy the vast continent's stronghold. Do you admit to your crimes? The dark clouds were rolling above, and the 100,000 battlefield specters were below. This scene seemed to have instantly turned Jun Changshao into the great sage, facing the punishment of 100,000 heavenly soldiers. Bang! The heavenly spear of 9 heavens and 10 earths appeared out of thin air, and the bottom of the spear cracked the ground. Swoosh! The Xianyuan divine armor was on him, and the camera swept across Jun Changxiao's shiny head. He stood proudly with one hand on the spear's hilt, and an aura of not bowing down to fate appeared around him. He said, "I'm not guilty. Why should I admit to my crimes?" When he said 7 words, heaven and earth shook. At that moment, all the powerhouses watching him felt respect from the bottom of their hearts. Chapter 1177. The dimensional battlefield was created by the upper realm, and the rules were also set by them. The warriors from the dimension who were called in killed in there, but it was nothing more than a toy for them to admire. No complaints. Yes. However, even if the warriors were unhappy, they could only endure it, because the upper realm was like heaven to them. Going against the upper realm was going against heaven. If they were the main character, even if they went against heaven, they would often be mocked. What did heaven owe you that you had to go against? Heaven did not owe them anything. Strictly speaking, there was also the grace of raising them. No one was so free to go against heaven, and their strength did not allow them to do so. Now, Jun Changxiao was holding a spear and wearing armor, and he was arrogant and challenging them, bringing great shock to the powerhouses from all dimensions. He was going against the upper realm, he was going against heaven. The warriors on the dimensional battlefield did not dare to go against the upper realm, but who did not have the heart to do so? Therefore, when Jun Changxiao pulled out the banner of the great sage, heaven's equal, and openly went against the voice of the upper realm, it instantly created a subtle resonance with them, and they all felt admiration in their hearts. Jun Patriarch. You did what we did not dare to do, you can be said to be a real man. We are silently cheering for you. No crime. The voice from the upper realm said, it seems that at this time, you still don't realize the crime you have committed. Jun Changxiao sneered and said, the upper realm is a playground you opened for you to play. Don't mortals kill for your entertainment? I have been cooperating since I came in, what crime have I committed? Entering the dimensional battlefield without permission, this is one of the crimes. Faking your death in the Azura battlefield, this is the second crime. Destroying the stronghold of the boundless continent, this is the third crime. Hearing the listed crimes, Jun Changxiao said disapprovingly, you upper realm are the ones who set the rules, isn't it easy to just casually give me a groundless crime? Stubborn. The tone of the upper realm's voice was a little angry. An ant from the mortal world was actually so arrogant and despotic. Cut the crap. Jun Changxiao raised the sky tyrant spear, pointed at the rolling dark clouds, and said arrogantly, you want to punish me, bring it on. Any escape route was blocked. Since there was no choice, there was only us cultivators, why should we fear a battle? Husband. Rose Queen transmitted her voice, I'll assist you. Jun Changxiao didn't pay attention to her. He coldly raised his head and said, you can punish me, Jun Changxiao, but do you want to implicate the innocent? The upper realm is fair in its rewards and punishments. A deep voice sounded, those who have nothing to do with this, please leave immediately. Jun Changxiao turned his back to the Rose Queen and said coldly, don't get in the way here. Get lost. If it was in the past, the system would definitely have ridiculed him, but now it agreed with the host because the upper realm was serious. That woman might be in danger here. I'm not leaving. Rose Queen's eyes were firm as she said, I want to stay and assist you. How could this woman, who had fought in the north and south, not know that she was in danger? But the more it was like this, the more she stayed, because he was my husband and I was his wife. Scram! No! Get lost! Husband and wife are birds of the same forest. Rose Queen took a step back and hugged Jun Changxiao. She whispered into his ear, let's die together. Seeing this, the corners of the powerhouse's mouths twitched. In such a serious and dangerous situation, the husband and wife still took the opportunity to show off their affection. There was no one else. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, everyone's eyes widened. Rose Queen, who was behind him, gradually turned into green energy. Jun Changshao knew that she was going to fuse with him again. He stabilized his mind and chose to resist, but he could not stop it at all. In the end, he gained even more strength. He turned green. Gosheng turned green again. Wait a minute, this guy has no hair, so he can't turn green at all. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Jun Changshao, who was already very strong, once again fused with Rose Queen to become Flower Gosheng. In the dark environment, he was even more dazzling than the stars in the sky. Why? I clearly rejected it, so why did I fuse so easily? Rose Queen said, because we are husband and wife, recognized by the soul race's ability. As long as I am willing, I can fuse with you at any time. This was really unreasonable. Since those who have nothing to do with it don't leave, then accept the punishment together, the upper realm voice said lightly. Whoosh! 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 Soul-like streams of light flew out from the dark clouds in the sky and quickly fused into the bodies of the 100,000 battlefield spirits that were lined up neatly. Caw caw caw. A mechanical sound was heard. They slowly raised their heads, their empty eyes shining. If it was just one, it might not feel much, but 100,000 battlefield spirits moved in unison and came to life. The scene was very explosive. Whoosh whoosh. Violent airwaves erupted, wildly disturbing the space. Mo Shangsheng and the others were outside the seal and were not affected at all. However, just by looking at the condensed airwaves with the naked eye, they could not help but feel a strong shock in the depths of their hearts. If they were standing in Jun Changshao's position, they would have been scared stiff. Jun Changshao. You have violated many rules of the upper realm. Today's punishment is to be a warning to all mortal beings. The upper realm's deep voice came, and the aura it emitted gave people a huge sense of oppression. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, the battlefield spirits that came to life seemed to have received an order. They waved their sickles and pressed down on Jun Changshao. Looking down from above, it looked like a calm lake, but suddenly ripples appeared. Boom! 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 Jun Changshao, who was wearing the Shenyuan divine armor and holding the Sky Tyrant spear, and had the support of the Rose Queen, transformed into a brave Zhao Zilong. Powerful spiritual energy poured into the tip of the spear, and with extremely domineering strength, he swept away all the battlefield spirits that were pressing down on him from all directions. Whoosh! A green light that looked like a giant dragon rushed out from the ground. The camera gave a close-up. Jun Changshao, who was shrouded in explosive energy, was holding the Sky Tyrant spear with both hands. He shouted angrily, "No one has the right to punish me. Not the upper realm, not the heavenly court." Whoosh! Whoosh! The powerful green spear aura fell from the sky like a collapsing mountain, instantly crushing hundreds of battlefield spirits. Whoosh! Suddenly, a heaven-class battlefield spirit rushed up from the side. Then, before it could wave its sickle, the spear aura swept over, and its entire body was instantly split into two. Then, it exploded. This, Mo Shangsheng and the others widened their eyes. A heaven-class battlefield spirit was killed instantly. That guy's strength was too terrifying. Boom! Boom! While everyone was still in shock, Jun Changshao shot down from above. Numerous spear lights appeared, and like a sharp sword, he slaughtered his way through the chaotic army. Thousands of battlefield ghosts unlocked all sorts of postures and flew in all directions. I command the wind and the clouds, I charge as I wish, and all look up to me. I turn the world upside down, I will write a law that respects me. In the training field of the Sect of all times, the modified sound system was playing the song Superstar in Troubled Times. The disciples of the Sect of all times were dancing as usual. Every time the music reached a climax, Jun Changshao, who was in the dimensional battlefield, would kill wantonly with his gaze like a wild wolf. Xian, Earth. With a sweep of his spear, they were shattered into pieces. Even the Heaven-class battlefield spirits were no match for him. Close to 1 million spectators outside the sealed land watched with stunned expressions as Jun Changshao annihilated and slaughtered to his heart's content inside. Boom! Boom! In a short time, countless pieces of armor were scattered on the ground, and over 10,000 battlefield spirits were killed. Monster! This guy is not human. Too scary. Looking at Jun Changshao, who was fighting with more than a dozen Heaven-class opponents in the sky and not at a disadvantage, the various dimensions experts were shocked. Chapter 1178. Previously, due to the opportunity, Jun Changshao had gone on a killing spree, and not many people had witnessed it. Now, all the powerful beings from various existential planes had gathered on the battlefield, and they were watching his one-man show in shock. Boom! 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 High up in the sky, Jun Changshao was fighting with more than a dozen Heaven-class battlefield spirits. His explosive power and imposing posture made him look like an undefeatable god of war in myths and legends. Die! Whoosh! 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 Boom! A battlefield spirit's helmet was shattered, and his body exploded on the spot. The fragments of his armor instantly scattered in the air. The martial artists from various existential planes were terrified. This was already the 4th Heaven class being killed by Jun Changshao on the spot. They were definitely top-notch fighters, and any one of them dying would be a huge loss. Terrifying. It was really too terrifying. At that moment, the martial artists from various existential planes finally understood why the upper realm had sent such a powerful lineup to punish him. It was because sending too few would be no different from sending them to their deaths. Boom! At that moment, Jun Changshao fell from the sky at high speed. Several dents appeared on the energy gathered in front of his chest. It was obvious that he had been attacked by a group. With the Shenyuan divine armor protecting him, it was not a big deal. However, this also showed that although Go Sheng was strong, he was not really invincible when surrounded by so many Heaven-class beings. Whoosh! 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 Tens of thousands of battlefield spirits charged over and instantly drowned Jun Changshao, who had just landed, in black waves. This is bad. There are so many battlefield spirits. They can exhaust him to death. After many powerful beings gradually calmed down, they were not optimistic about Jun Changshao fighting so many lifeforms created by the upper realm. After all, there was a limit to one person's strength. Boom! There was a sudden explosion. Whoosh! 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 The immense spiritual energy was spreading out crazily like ripples. In slow motion, the area where Jun Changshao was engulfed, and the densely packed battlefield spirits were all blasted away. The entire sky was filled with black shadows. It was definitely a feast for the eyes. It was definitely powerful. Swish! Suddenly, a stream of light shrouded in red and green shot out like a sharp arrow. It directly nailed itself to the Heaven battlefield specter battle helmet that was flying over. It was then sent flying, crashing into the mountain 1,000 feet away with a bang. Hiss hiss hiss. Jun Changshao sprinted out, the surface of the green dragon crescent blade rubbing against the stone floor, creating sparks and lightning along the way. Hoo-hoo! A vast amount of attributes burst forth. An imposing figure that was 9 feet tall and had a beard that was 2 feet long appeared in front of him. Previously, Jun Changshao was Zhao Zilong of Changshan. The current Jun Changshao was Hua Xiong, the Marquis of Han Shou Ting, Guanyin Chang. Hoo-hoo! Thick spiritual energy continued to erupt. It was as if a red hair was gathering under him. A righteous force from the east gathered in the sky above the dimensional battlefield. Die! Swish! Jun Changshao, who was possessed by Guanyu, suddenly waved the green dragon crescent blade, and a light that seemed capable of sweeping away thousands of armies tore through the air in an arc. This special weapon that had helped Go Sheng resolve many crises might not appear often, but it did not mean that it had lost its power. This was because even an ordinary branch could kill when used by an expert. Was Jun Changshao strong? Very strong. The strongest person on the Starfall continent. There were 9 thearchs above him. How did he become the strongest? Because in history, there had never been a person who had reached the level of great perfection in both martial arts and sword arts. After completing the epic mission, Jun Changshao's name would be recorded in the history of the Starfall continent forever, creating an immortal legend. Swish, 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 swish. Poochie. Poochie. An extremely powerful blade aura swept out, cutting thousands of battlefield spirits in half. Although they were wearing high-quality armor, they were just like scarecrows in front of absolute power. Swish! Swish! Jun Changshao did not stop there. Taking advantage of the time before the Heaven-class warriors arrived, he waved the green dragon crescent blade wildly. Wherever the blade aura passed, helmets flew out and armor cracked. It could be said that one man could hold back 10,000 enemies. After slaughtering another 10,000 battlefield spirits, he flew up, poured all his spiritual energy into the blade, and smashed it down. Not bad. He was throwing the green dragon crescent blade down like a projectile. This was definitely a bomb. Boom! The green dragon crescent blade, which was like a dragon's roar, slammed into the ground, and instantly swept up dust that covered the sky. The corner of the martial artist's mouth twitched violently. Just throwing down a weapon could cause such a commotion. This guy was simply so strong that people could only worship him. Huff huff. The wind whistled, and the dust dissipated. A huge trench appeared on the ground in the distance, like a dry river. The green dragon crescent blade sunk into the ground, emitting an aura of righteousness that made people revere it. The otherworldly battlefield. Show the might of China. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. In the sky, dozens of heaven-class warriors rushed over again. They had no thoughts or senses. They only had Jun Changshao in their eyes, and they only wanted to kill him. Boom! 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 An even more intense battle unfolded. As there were dozens of heaven-class warriors besieging him this time, Jun Changshao was instantly in a sorry state. Although he tried his best to kill a few of them, he still couldn't avoid being bombarded many times, and he fell to the ground with a boom. Unseal it. The system said, otherwise, the host will be exhausted to death. Jun Changshao was indignant. With his breakthrough and the assistance of Rose Queen, his strength could be said to be unprecedentedly strong. However, as there were too many enemies, it was abnormally difficult to fight. Under the attacks of 100 heaven-class warriors, he could still kill 20,000 battlefield spirits. This was not just difficult, it was already very ferocious. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. At this moment, dozens of powerful airwaves erupted in the sky. They folded together, as if turning into an inescapable net, and pressed down on Jun Changshao. With so many powers comparable to great perfection level converging, the power formed caused the space to collapse and the world to lose its color. The spectating martial artists' hearts trembled, and they turned pale with fright. Ta! Jun Changshao spread his legs, and a powerful sword force erupted as he roared furiously, "Who in this world can do anything to me?" Huff huff huff. Under the sound of mountains and rivers shaking, the powerful spiritual airwaves condensed into a solid defensive barrier, and it welcomed the dozens of heaven-class warriors' powers in the strongest state. Crazy! The system roared, crazy! The host could have used the unstoppable blade, but he insisted on using his own strength to resist. His brain must have been kicked by a donkey, and it must have been squeezed by a door. Huff huff. Dozens of overbearing powers pressed down from the sky, and the whole world seemed to have lost its color. The defensive barrier below revealed an unyielding spirit. At that moment, the surroundings seemed to have become incomparably quiet. There were no more whistling of energy or surging airwaves. The spectating martial artists held their breaths. At this moment, they could only watch with dumbfounded expressions as the vast power and tyrannical defense were about to collide. Boom! In the end, the two forces representing attack and defense collided in midair, and a colorful scene appeared, far surpassing the scene imagined by the martial artists of this plane. Ka ka ka. Ka 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 ka. In the sealed area, violent forces rampaged around like ancient ferocious beasts, causing a large area of space to collapse. After a while, the restlessness inside gradually calmed down, and the power gathered by dozens of heaven-class warriors dissipated. The defensive barrier set up by Jun Changshao still existed proudly. He withstood it. He actually withstood it. Pfft. Suddenly, the sound of someone vomiting blood could be heard. Jun Changshao instinctively turned his head and saw that Rose Queen had already left his body. She staggered behind him, and her face was extremely pale as she said weakly, "Husband, I can't help you anymore." Chapter 1179. The support-type soul divine ability could not last forever. When the person being assisted suffered a fatal attack or consumed a lot of energy, they would be released. Jun Changshao had used his own strength to resist dozens of heaven-class battlefield spirits, which had consumed a lot of Rose Queen's energy, so she was forced to leave. Because she had been assisting her husband to resist the powerful forces, she could not avoid the backlash, and her meridians were damaged to varying degrees. In other words, Jun Changshao did not want to rely on Unstoppable Blade to fight the battlefield spirits head-on. In the end, he would be fine, but Rose Queen would be harmed. Others would either harm their father or son. Go Sheng, who did not take the normal path, would directly harm his wife. Of course, Jun Changshao could not be blamed. After all, he did not know some things to take note of when the soul race support type. But now, Rose Queen and Jun Changshao were released, and the explosion that could fight dozens of heaven-class battlefield spirits instantly decreased by more than half. Whoosh! 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 In the sky, the terrifying forces pressed down again, and the momentum was even stronger than before. The defensive barrier that Jun Changshao had set up still existed, but in comparison, it was much weaker in terms of aura and materialization. Take it head-on. He was dreaming. Don't hesitate. The system roared. Hurry up and remove the seal. Without Rose Queen's assistance, although Jun Changshao was not afraid of the heaven-class battlefield spirits, now that dozens of forces were pressing down, he could not dodge in time. Damn it! He cursed angrily in his heart and could only summon Unstoppable Blade. Husband! At this moment, Rose Queen's gentle voice reached his ears. Although I can't help you, I can die for you. Jun Changshao's expression froze. Whoosh! Suddenly, Rose Queen flew up, and her graceful body erupted with rich green attributes, turning into a large net to meet the dozens of powerful forces pressing down on her. In her current state, if she faced such terrifying forces head-on, she would definitely die. Coincidentally, Rose Queen's position happened to be the Love Valley that had been surrounded by the various existential planes previously. Crack! 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 Dozens of different types of power came crashing down with even more power than before, causing space to distort crazily and then distort on a large scale. At this time, if it were any other spectating cultivator, they would have been crushed into powder under the terrifying pressure. That woman is going to die. At the critical moment, she stood up and died for her husband. This feeling is truly worthy of praise and tears. Empress Rose was fearless as she charged forward, causing the various existential planes cultivators to be moved. Swish! Suddenly, a strange energy ripple spread out in the battlefield, and the enormous power that was descending from the sky seemed to have suddenly stopped. Everyone was dumbfounded. At this time, not only did they find that the energy had stopped, but the tens of thousands of ghosts on the battlefield below were also frozen. Even the dust and sand floating in the air seemed to have been frozen. What's going on? All the cultivators subconsciously looked towards the source of the strange ripples and discovered that Jun Changshao had vanished into thin air. Where is he? Up there. Shwa! 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 Everyone raised their heads and discovered that among the dozens of frozen energy regions, Jun Changshao was suspended in midair like a god of war. The light reflected from his head was as dazzling as the sun. Empress Rose, who was about to charge forward, widened her eyes. At this moment, she was not concerned about the bald head, but the weapon in her husband's right hand. In the camera, the tip and blade of the knife gradually appeared. Cold light gathered on them, and then all the way up until the weapon's form was completely revealed. It was actually an extremely sharp-looking, watermelon knife. There was a red ribbon at the handle, irregularly wrapped around Jun Changxiao's wrist. The knife flashed. It was even more dazzling than the head. That's right. This was the third form, hard blade, after being modified by the modification stone. Although the shape was a little strange, the aura that sealed space and everything was even stronger than the second form. All the cultivators were speechless. A guy who was as daunting as a god of war suddenly took out a knife used to cut watermelons. This scene did not match the austere atmosphere around them. Go down. Jun Changxiao's back was facing Empress Rose. His words were as cold as the knife's surface, and even had a hint of inviolability. Oh. Empress Rose responded and retracted the released energy back to the ground. As for the battlefield spirits below, because they were all frozen in place, they did not pose any threat to her. After confirming that the woman was in a safe area, Jun Changxiao looked up at the dozens of types of energy gathered in the sky and said calmly, "It's time to end this." Swish! With a swing of hard blade, the knife flare tore through the void. The power that froze the sky exploded on the spot, and the dozens of heaven-class warriors who were sealed higher up were all cut in half at the waist. All the cultivators outside the seal stared with their eyes almost popping out. That guy's casual swing of the knife was like drawing a line with a pen on a piece of paper, and dozens of powerful battlefield spirits were instantly cut in half. The scene was extremely terrifying. Swish! At this moment, Jun Changxiao swung his knife again. Swish! The knife flare shot out, and the dozens of heaven-class warriors in another area were all cut in half at the waist. Their shining eyes immediately dimmed. All the cultivators were dumbfounded at this moment. They could see that Jun Changxiao's watermelon knife was very strong. But, why didn't those battlefield spirits dodge or resist? Why did they let him swing his knife 1 or 2 times? What happened next was unforgettable and unforgettable for all the powerful cultivators. Swish! Jun Changxiao flew down and walked toward the tens of thousands of battlefield spirits that were under his control as if he was taking a stroll. Swish, swish, swish. Swish, swish, swish. The knife flashed frequently in the crowd, crisscrossing. Thud! When Jun Changxiao walked out of the tens of thousands of battlefield spirits and put down hard blade at an angle, the sound of armor cracking could be heard, and helmets flew everywhere. Scary. Scary to death. Fortunately, they were creatures created by the higher realm. If they were human cultivators, the scene would be even more terrifying with the blood-splattering effect. Unbelievable. Rose Queen was in disbelief. Close to 80,000 battlefield spirits and close to 100 heaven-class warriors were easily killed by her husband's watermelon knife-like weapon. Jun Changxiao. Suddenly, a deep voice came from the rolling dark clouds again. The weapon you're using is not an item of this world. It's against the rules to bring it to the dimensional battlefield. Noisy. Jun Changxiao looked up and waved his knife coldly. Swish! The knife flare that seemed to pierce through heaven and earth with supreme power directly tore apart the dark clouds that seemed to cover the whole world. Then, it quickly dispersed and disappeared without a trace. The dark clouds dispersed. The dimensional battlefield returned to its usual color. However, the shock and astonishment in the cultivators' hearts grew even stronger. The battlefield spirits were ultimately just hired thugs sent down. The dark clouds that gathered in the sky represented the higher realm. Jun Changxiao chopped it down. That was equivalent to chopping the heavens. Wait a minute. When this guy chopped at the dark clouds, Why did the watermelon knife-like weapon suddenly turn into a large green knife that was embedded in the ground? Could it be that his weapon could transform at will? Chapter 1180. Bang! After cutting off the dark clouds that had gathered in the sky, the blade of the hard blade was stuck to the ground. At this moment, it was no longer the previous watermelon knife, but a mold similar to the green dragon crescent blade. The smooth surface of the blade reflected the various broken armors scattered on the ground. The warriors from this plane were stunned. The blade, could it be changed at will? Or could it be that this guy changed his weapon midway, and because it was too fast, he couldn't catch the movement at all? The blade was still the hard blade. This was a special function of the third form. It could change its form at will under the control of the owner. The battlefield ghosts were similar to the 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals of the heavenly court. Jun Changshao transformed the hard blade into the form of a watermelon knife. Obviously, he planned to slash from the southern heavenly gate to Pinglai East Road, slashing back and forth for 3 days and 3 nights without blinking. In the end, he was disappointed. These battlefield ghosts couldn't withstand the slashing at all. In a short while, they were all gone. As for the dark clouds that had gathered in the sky, he had a flash of inspiration and changed the hard blade into a normal broadsword form. Only then would it look more imposing. Talent. The system said, the host is really a talent. Strange. Jun Changshao was puzzled. I've killed all the battlefield ghosts. Why haven't I completed the side quest? Just as he was about to escape from the siege, the side quest was triggered. The content was to get rid of all the battlefield ghosts. In that case, then let's fight to our heart's content, fight to the death. Perhaps, the system said, what's the follow-up? This guy's mouth was blessed. Because just as he finished speaking, black streams of light suddenly descended from the sky and merged into the broken armors scattered all over the ground. Then, they quickly gathered together and turned into a huge black energy ball. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A shocking aura spread out from within, and the space in the sealed area was completely shattered. Boom! Suddenly, a large battlefield ghost that was 200 feet tall walked out of the black energy ball. Whether it was its head or body, it was made of broken armor. Its pair of big red eyes emitted an explosive aura. This momentum, Mo Shangsheng said in shock, could it be the Heaven Ascension Realm? The Heaven Ascension Realm was the strongest realm in the 9 Heavens Continents martial arts realm system, corresponding to the Martial Emperor realm of the Falling Star Continent and the Soul Race Continent. The experts from the other existential planes were also dumbfounded. According to the rules of the higher realm, the dimensional battlefield did not allow cultivators stronger than Heaven class to enter. Now, in order to punish Jun Changshao, they had actually sent out such a battlefield specter. Or should he say it? That fellow's current strength had already surpassed the Heaven class, and the upper realm had no choice but to send someone of the same level to deal with him. No. It was impossible for him to have such terrifying strength. It should be related to the weapon he was holding. Martial Emperor. Jun Changshao's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Everyone was speechless. At a time like this, he could still laugh. Shwa! The huge battlefield specter raised its hand, and a huge black scythe appeared. The red light in its eyes became more and more intense. Husband, be careful. Rose Queen said telepathically, this is a true realm powerhouse. Judging from his aura, he seems to be much stronger than the handsome man. She believed that it was stronger than the Starry Sky Navigator King because the battlefield specter's body was made up of 100,000 of its kind. Its defense was extremely high, and the scythe it summoned was not inferior to her Red Lotus demonic moon blade. Don't get in the way. Stay away, Jun Changshao said coldly. Whoosh! Rose Queen flew back and stopped at the edge of the seal. She thought to herself, why don't you use the word scram? Shwa! At this moment, the super battlefield specter waved the scythe in its hand and slashed out a huge ray of light. It was as if it had instantly cut the world into two. Whoosh! Jun Changxiao's body flashed and dodged calmly. However, the area where the terrifying light tore apart suddenly showed a spatial crack that seemed to be impossible to heal. That's too scary. If this kind of power erupts in our plane, the entire continent will suffer a huge disaster. Because of the seals sealing the area, the spectating martial artists could not feel the strongest aura that filled the air. However, from the scene of tearing space, they could infer that it was definitely at the level of destroying the world. Boom! The light of the scythe came into contact with the ground, and a huge and deep trench instantly appeared. Rose Queen, who was at the edge of the area, condensed a barrier in front of her to resist the roaring residual power. She was shocked and said, "What a terrifying power." The next second, the expression on her face became dull. Because in her field of vision, Jun Changxiao was already suspended in front of the super battlefield specter. Against the huge body, he looked like a weak ant. Why did he fly over? Did he want to die? All the martial artists also noticed, and the expressions on their faces became more and more interesting. Shouldn't such a terrifying and powerful existence be avoided as far as possible? Why did that guy send himself in front of it? Was he not afraid that it would backhand him? As expected, the super battlefield specter realized that its target had appeared in front of it. It raised its huge scythe and slashed it. Whoosh whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! The wind from the scythe exploded and cut the space. However, the moment he touched Jun Changxiao, the unstoppable blade in his right hand transformed into the shape of a scythe and slashed through the void with a swoosh. Poochie, the scythe swept past, and the wrist of the super battlefield specter fell off. Whoosh whoosh! Because it lost its center of gravity and the movement of its palm, the huge scythe that carried a powerful force swept past Jun Changxiao. At the moment it swept past, the surface of the scythe reflected his incomparably cold and arrogant face. Boom! The scythe and the entire right hand collided with the ground, stirring up waves of dust. During the whole process, Jun Changxiao didn't move his body except for swinging his scythe. His expression was neither sad nor happy. It could be said that he was extremely pretentious. Rose Queen was dumbfounded. All the martial artists opened their mouths in shock. An even more powerful creature formed from the shattered armors of 100,000 battlefield ghosts had its right arm cut off so easily. That guy's weapon was too sharp. Swish! 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 The scythe's light flickered frequently. After a fierce operation, Jun Changxiao lowered the scythe at an angle. Caw caw caw! Caw caw caw! The cracking sound was extremely clear and entered the ears of all the martial artists. Everyone's eyes gradually widened. Even those with single eyelids and small eyes were almost the size of eggs. What did they see? They saw fine horizontal and vertical marks appear behind the super battlefield specter. When combined, they were as dense as the chess lines on a chessboard. Bang! Bang! After a while, the mountain-like super battlefield specter instantly disintegrated. Pieces of its body scattered on the ground. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Jun Changxiao had disintegrated the ghost of the battlefield, which was above the heavens, just like that. Ding! Side mission completed. Host has received 100,000 contribution points. Ding! 1700070000 ding. Sect contribution points overflow. Ding! Side mission completed. Hidden rewards triggered. Received Lingyan Pavilion's exclusive Divine Weapon Modification Stone X2. Received Hidden Sect Function Title Pavilion. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, so this big guy is the last one. Huff huff. At this moment, the dark clouds that had been cut off appeared again. Then, they filled the sky above the seal. Powerful lightning snakes shot out from them. The powerful lightning power instantly filled the surroundings. Jun Changxiao has repeatedly violated the rules. Heaven and earth cannot tolerate this. Lightning punishment is activated. A deep voice resounded throughout the dimensional battlefield. Damn it! Jun Changshao said angrily. Is there no end to this? Boom! Boom! In an instant, 2 lightning bolts that were enough to illuminate the night sky descended from the rolling dark clouds at the same time. One was locked onto him. The other was locked onto, boom! Boom! The 2 lightning powers from the upper realm instantly exploded in the sealed area. The scene that appeared in an instant was like a nuclear explosion. The intense light produced was so bright that the martial artists could not open their eyes. They could only raise their hands to block their vision. Chapter 1181. In the dimensional battlefield, Jun Changshao had experienced a lightning punishment before. However, it was slightly different this time because it was not a punishment, but a sanction. Therefore, without even going through the brewing process, 2 lightning bolts shot out from the dark clouds. Not only was it sudden, but it was also fast. Its power was also much stronger than the previous lightning punishment. One could tell from the scene that looked like a nuclear explosion. My eyes! Ah! Those martial artists who were close to the sealed area and were only at the yellow level temporarily lost their vision due to the strong light. Their eyes were in extreme pain. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in the area of the lightning punishment, the violent lightning energy flew everywhere. Unfortunately, it was restricted before it reached the barrier of the seal. Otherwise, once it broke through, the terrifying aftershock would definitely affect half of the dimensional battlefield. The millions of martial artists who were watching the show would also suffer heavy casualties. From this, it could be seen that the upper realm's punishment of Jun Changshao was clearly planned and well thought out. It was definitely not done on the spot. It's over. It's over. Ku Jinnan closed her eyes. The pain of losing a good friend appeared on her face. The strong light just now was enough to show that the lightning punishment from the upper realm was absolutely terrifying. Jun Changshao would definitely not be able to withstand it. Sigh. Mo Shangsheng shook his head and sighed. It was undeniable that he had been severely blackmailed by Jun Changshao. However, they had worked together after all. He had even earned a lot of money from healing pills. Now that he had personally witnessed Jun Changshao die under the lightning punishment, it was quite sad and regretful. Jun Patriarch. Mustang Xing thought to himself, your actions today will definitely leave your name in the annals of history. The powerhouses from other dimensions thought so too. Even the Scarlet Sea continent and the Lingyun continent, who had been blackmailed many times before, were now full of admiration for Jun Changshao. Some said that they had come to watch the show and would definitely be blackmailed by Go Sheng. If Jun Patriarch was still alive, they would not take the initiative to blackmail him. They would give him money and resources on their own just to respect this true man who dared to fight against the heavens. In the endless starry sky. On a colorful throne, a graceful woman surrounded by clouds leaned gently against the back of the chair. Sigh. The stooped old man beside him shook his head helplessly. That little guy had to endure such a strong lightning punishment. He was definitely dead. Empress Lingyao. In the distant starry sky, a valiant and extraordinary golden-armored man was sitting on a war chariot in a domineering manner. He crossed his legs and said with a smile, "Did I go a little too hard on the martial practitioners of your falling star continent?" Empress Lingyao fell silent. You can't blame me for that. The golden-armored man pretended to be helpless as he spread out his hands and said, "Who asked that fellow to break the rules again and again? The Realm Hall was worried that you would cover up for him, so they had no choice but to let me take charge of the punishment this time." Jin Hao. Empress Lingyao said coldly, "I hope that after the continent you came from enters the planar battlefield, I won't be able to get my hands on you." TSK. The golden-armored man said, "You're clearly retaliating." All of a sudden, his face shrouded in the supreme power Upanishad looked surprised. He stooped to look down. His sharp eyes seemed to pierce through the void, gazing at the sealed area where the lightning punishment had struck. The hunchbacked old man's expression changed slightly, and he transmitted his voice, "Master, that brat is not dead." "I see." Empress Ling Yao responded calmly, but her heart was filled with surprise. Jin Hao, who was in charge of the punishment, had used 100% of the lightning punishment's power. There shouldn't be any living thing in the mortal realm that could withstand it. The scene returned to the battlefield, back to the sealed area. The violent lightning element gradually dissipated, and the blurry figure of a person gradually became clear. The cultivators who had just opened their eyes and adjusted to the new environment immediately noticed it. Their expressions instantly stiffened. "June Patriarch, he's still alive." Mo Shangsheng was so shocked that his hands were trembling violently. Such a terrifying lightning punishment, once struck, would definitely be reduced to ashes. Now that a human figure had suddenly appeared, it meant that his physical body hadn't been destroyed. It meant that there was still a chance of survival. Although it was inconceivable, although it was hard to believe, but when Jun Changshao clearly appeared in front of everyone's eyes, they couldn't help but admit that this really had happened. Such a terrifying lightning punishment, but his body was completely unharmed. Jun Patriarch. Jin Nan couldn't care less about the occasion and his demeanor as he roared, "Badass." His vulgar words instantly resonated with the cultivators' ears. One cultivator after another yelled, "Jun Patriarch, badass. Jun Patriarch, badass. Jun Patriarch, badass." Hundreds of thousands of powerful cultivators were yelling, "Badass," in unison. Although the scene wasn't too flashy, it was still enough to shake the heavens and the earth. Jun Changshao gradually straightened his back as everyone cheered. Crack crack. The charred ground beneath his feet cracked and spread like a spiderweb. Whoosh! Jun Changshao stood proudly with his back straight. He held the Rose Empress in his arms and looked up at the sky with a cold gaze. "What other punishments do you have? Bring them all out." His sharp gaze seemed to pierce through the void as he stared directly at the man in golden armor. The latter's killing intent surged as he uttered the most classic Xuanhuan line. "This kid cannot be allowed to live." Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, he activated the second lightning punishment. Empress Ling Yao replied calmly, "Since the establishment of the planar battlefield, there has been a written rule stating that if a mortal cultivator survives the lightning punishment, they will not be held accountable for any wrongdoings. Have you, as the previous warden, forgotten this?" The man in golden armor's hand froze in mid-air as he dismissed the thought. "I would have forgotten if you hadn't mentioned it." Empress Ling Yao said calmly, "Since the lightning punishment didn't do anything to this kid, all crimes have been forgiven. You can go back and report to the realm hall." "All right." The man in golden armor turned the chariot around. However, before he left, he said, "Empress Ling Yao, the realm hall has been keeping an eye on you. Don't do anything stupid. You think the realm hall is only paying attention to me and not you?" The woman was still shrouded in clouds, making it difficult to see her expression. "Ha ha ha." The man in golden armor laughed. "I've always been a law-abiding citizen. Why would the realm hall pay attention to me?" Then, his voice suddenly lowered. "Some people, on the other hand, really do need to be wary. Don't think that no one knows what you're doing in the dark. Let's go, let's go." Whoosh! The chariot flashed and disappeared without a trace. Empress Ling Yao was silent for a while, then left with the stooped old man. The planar battlefield. Jun Changshao, surrounded by a terrifying aura, seemed to sense it. He looked away and lowered his head, his voice cold. "Done hugging?" "No." Empress Rose pressed against his chest, her eyes closed. "Let me snuggle a little longer." Jun Changshao threw her off, his face dark. He raised his hand and called back the sky hegemon spear and green dragon crescent blade nailed to the mountain peak. Buzz! All of a sudden, the barrier around them disappeared. The punishment from the upper realm was over. Jun Changshao had survived once again, and under the watchful eyes of millions of cultivators. Chapter 1182. The sanctions from the upper realm were completely ended after the lightning punishment. Then the question was, how did Jun Changshao withstand the full strength of the lightning punishment? Could it be that he relied on his skin thicker than the universe? No, no, no. This was just a joke that the system ridiculed. Jun Changshao was able to withstand it because he used another bottle and the universal talisman. When he was surrounded by 100,000 battlefield ghosts, he had already used another bottle of the epic quest reward to buy a talisman that could instantly raise his realm. Therefore, even without the assistance of Rose Queen, after crushing it, his realm would immediately increase by a level. With Wu Xing's cultivation base at the Great Perfection stage, he added another realm from this foundation. In other words, not only was Jun Changshao a martial emperor, but his cultivation level was also very high. Using the word handsome as a unit of measurement, he was at least several times more handsome. Moreover, he was wearing the Shenyuan divine armor. So in summary, he used his face to take it. Pht. When the surrounding defensive enchantment dissipated, Jun Changshao spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. "Are you injured?" Rose Queen hurriedly asked. Jun Changshao suppressed his injuries and activated his roar mode. "I resisted 2 bolts of lightning punishment, isn't it normal to be injured?" Rose Queen, who was originally worried, suddenly laughed and said, "To be able to speak so loudly, it seems that husband is not a big problem." Pht. Goshing spat out another mouthful of blood. Whether this mouthful was caused by his injuries or if there was another reason was unknown. "Let's go." "Where are we going?" "Saras continent." In Jun Changshao's eyes, the appearance of the upper realm sanctions was nothing more than a small interlude, so he would still follow his previous plan to extort another plane. Moreover, because this matter had consumed an opening talisman, another bottle, and a universal talisman, he had to fiercely take back his losses from Saras continent. However, as soon as he arrived at the stronghold, the first echelon of plane bosses were already waiting with their subordinates. Jun Patriarch, the money is ready." When Jun Changshao held the interspatial ring that contained tens of millions of spirit stones, his expression immediately became interesting. This was definitely the easiest blackmail he had ever done. Moreover, the other party was so cooperative that it made him feel embarrassed. Hence, he forcefully returned the 5 million yuan. From this, it could be seen that Jun Changshao was very principled. "Goodbye. Goodbye." After watching the couple leave, the big boss of the Shalos continent let out a long sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. The reason why he was so cooperative and even brought people to greet him was because he was present when Jun Changshao fought against the upper realm sanctions. Monsters. He was definitely a monster. Therefore, when he heard that the other party was going to his stronghold, he rushed back at the speed of reincarnation and took out all his assets. The vast continent had 30 million people, while the Shama continent had 25 million people. This made Jun Changshao, who had used a variety of trump cards, feel very gratified. But how should he split it with the Rose Queen? 40 million for me, 15 million for you. Sure. Jun Changshao widened his eyes. Didn't she insist on splitting it 50-50? Why was she suddenly so agreeable? The Rose Queen smiled and said, "Who asked you to help me withstand the lightning punishment? Since you know how to be grateful, you shouldn't ask for a single spirit stone." Jun Changshao said lightly. The Rose Queen said, "If you treat me as your wife, as your woman, I don't mind giving you all the spirit stones." Here. Jun Changshao hurriedly threw a few space capsules and said, "There are 20 million spirit stones in here. Take them and leave. You're hopeless." The system said. The Rose Queen looked up and said with resentment in her eyes, "Why won't you accept me?" He would rather give her 5 million than treat her as his wife. This really made her sad. "I don't feel anything," Jun Changshao said. The Rose Queen took a step forward and looked him in the eyes. "Then why did you save me when the lightning punishment came down?" "Because," Jun Changshao turned his head and said lightly, "if you died, how could I have a legitimate reason to blackmail you?" The system couldn't take it anymore. It wanted nothing more than to transform and kick him in the face. "You're lying," the Rose Queen said. "You clearly have me in your heart. You just don't want to admit it. Don't flatter yourself. Look at me." "I won't." "You're running away. There's no such word in my dictionary." "You," the Rose Queen bit her lips lightly, and the resentment in her eyes became stronger. "Please," Jun Changshao said, "we're all powerhouses. Don't harass me in the future." Because of the time limit of Hard Blade and the Universal Talisman, he couldn't stay in the planar battlefield for long, so he immediately flew to the Starfall Continent stronghold. "Jun Changshao." The Rose Queen stomped her feet like an angry little girl and shouted, "You and I are husband and wife. We'll be husband and wife for life. Let's see how long you can hide." "You're crazy." Jun Changshao's roar echoed in the sky. The Rose Queen was so angry that she frowned. However, when that guy disappeared from her sight, she suddenly smiled and muttered to herself, "The way he runs away is as cute as his head." Plop! Although he flew far away, Jun Changshao didn't retract his spiritual sense and fell from the sky. This woman was really crazy. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao just returned and sat in the study. He was paralyzed like mud. With the double side effects, the host will probably be weak for a few years, the system said. "It's not a big problem. I have the spacetime secret realm." With the time acceleration at a higher rate, Jun Changshao didn't care about his weakness at all. Instead, he opened the system's data interface and saw that there was an additional title pavilion under the Divine Weapon Pavilion. What's the use of this hidden function? He tapped on it, and a small frame popped out. On it was written, "Activating the title pavilion requires 100,000 contribution points. Agree, disagree." Fuck. Jun Changshao broke down. Why does this hidden function require contribution points to activate? "There's no free lunch in this world," the system said. Jun Changshao fell into deep thought. However, what made him break down even more was that after the frame popped out, there were no skip or back buttons. The interface was completely stuck, and he could only choose to agree or disagree. "There's only one chance." The system said, "Host, do you want to have it or give it up?" Jun Changshao was silent for a while before finally agreeing. After all, it was a sect function. Even if he had to spend 100,000 contribution points, he had to take a gamble. Ding! Host has successfully activated the sect function, Title Pavilion. Ding! Sect contribution points, 700,007,0000. The contribution points from killing 100,000 battlefield ghosts and completing the side mission were all used to activate the hidden function. Jun Changshao slumped in his chair and said helplessly, "I worked for nothing." Since he had already spent the money and the title pavilion had been activated, he had to take a look. Thus, he tapped on it and a large panel appeared. There were many titles listed on it. For example, Fair-Faced Flying Dragon. For example, Bloodthirsty Shura. For example, Demon King of Chaos. Jun Changshao broke down. Can you be any more Chinibu? Chapter 1183. After spending 100,000 contribution points to open the title pavilion, Jun Changshao was left speechless. There were many idiotic titles in the title pavilion. Shameless. This title suits the host very well. The system said. Fuck off. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and clicked on the Fair-Faced Flying Dragon title. An introduction panel popped up. Title, Fair-Faced Flying Dragon. Effect, increase movement, flying, and flying speed by 20% after equipping. Condition, must be good looking. This suits me very well. Why? The condition says it all. Bah! This title can increase speed by 20% in all aspects. It doesn't seem to have much effect. Jun Changshao held his chin and said. He found a plus sign at the bottom right corner of the introduction panel, so he clicked on it. Immediately, a bunch of names appeared. There were Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and so on. Understood. Jun Changshao said, the title can be used by the disciples. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei are both famous for their speed. With the fair-faced flying dragon title, wouldn't they be like tigers with wings? While thinking, he chose Su Xiaoma's name. Ding! Su Xiaoma has obtained the title, fair-faced flying dragon. Su Xiaoma, who was training in the second level of the training tower, heard the words fair-faced flying dragon appear above his head. He then disappeared in the blink of an eye. He didn't know the whole process. However, he also noticed that his speed was much faster than before, so he asked in surprise, "What's going on?" Inside the life and death secret realm, Yi Xingqian stood proudly, surrounded by thousands of spirit beasts comparable to Wu Huang. This guy came to challenge the normal mode again. Bloodthirsty Shura can increase the wearer's strength by 20%. The condition is that the wearer must be cold and aloof. It suits Anyo very well. I can give it to him first. In the study, Jun Changshao chose the name. In the secret realm, Yi Xingqian's title appeared above his head and then disappeared. The spiritual energy in his body increased instantly. Strange. Anyo was stunned. How did I suddenly become stronger? Roar! Roar! At this moment, thousands of spirit beasts that were as powerful as Wu Huang charged toward them. Yi Xingqian gave up on thinking. The 20% increase in spiritual energy instantly burst out and gathered in his fist as he launched the craziest attack. An hour later, all the spirit beasts in the illusion were killed. Yi Xingqian stood proudly with his back facing the camera and said calmly, "Trash." Boom! Boom! Within Lei Zhongtian in Nine Heaven's secret realm, Li Qingyang was holding the heavenly slaughter lightning mark in his hand as he battled with the thunder spirit beast. Suddenly, the words, "the way of the mean," appeared above his head. Both his spiritual energy and speed had increased by 5%. Feeling the sudden improvement in all aspects of his body, he asked in surprise, "What's going on?" There were many other titles in the title pavilion. For example, Long Chengfei could increase the range of his spear weapon. This was very suitable for Long Xiang. After all, he liked to use spears as his main weapon, and it was related to the word dragon. Demon King of Confusion could increase the power of demonic cultivators. Jun Changshao gave it to Yao Menjing, who had a natural demonic body and majored in demonic martial arts. Ding! Xiao Ziji has obtained the title, Defense Master. Ding! Lu Qianqian has obtained the title, Absolute Zero. Ding! Ding Xingwang has obtained the title, Dark King of Hell. Ding! The Purple King has obtained the title, Incompetent Roar. There were many more titles in the title pavilion. From the name, one could know what the enhancement was, so there was no need to describe them one by one. Host, you can click on, Extremely Shameless. The system suggested. Jun Changshao thought for a while and clicked on it. Title, Extremely Shameless. Effect, after equipping, it can increase temperament and charm by 20%. Condition, must be sufficiently shameless. The system exclaimed, just by looking at this condition, you can tell that in the entire sect of all times, only the host can do it. It is truly tailor-made. Am I very shameless? Not only are you shameless, you are also very shameless. Scram scram scram. After Jun Changshao scolded, he said in confusion, how can such a shameless title increase temperament and charm after equipping it? Could it be that the saying is true, that women don't like bad men? Why do you care so much? Just wear it. The system said, anyway, it's not like you have to stick the title on your forehead. That's true. Ding! Jun Changshao has obtained the title, Extremely Shameless. When the notification disappeared, the words, Extremely Shameless, appeared on the back of Jun Changshao's hand. It was on his wrist, thigh, and even his forehead. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others' titles appeared on their heads like an ID and then disappeared very quickly. However, it covered his entire body. It was obvious how compatible it was with the title. Fuck. Jun Changshao said frantically, "You toxic healer." Ha ha ha. The system could not help but laugh wildly. Just as Jun Changshao was about to cancel the title, the shameless words on the back of his hand, wrist, and forehead disappeared. His temperament instantly improved by a lot. Ever since he became the master of a sect, he had always been using his life to interpret comedy. Therefore, except for a few situations where he would be especially serious, he usually had a sloppy look on his face. Now that he had a nickname that suited him very well, his sloppy temperament was actually even stronger than before. An increase of 20%. This wasn't a joke. Fuck. Standing in front of the mirror and looking at his sloppy self, Jun Changshao broke down and said, "This is a damned negative buff." Ha ha ha. The system's laughter sounded in his ears. "I'm dying of laughter." No, no. Jun Changshao said, "This title does not suit me. It has to be removed." He opened the title pavilion and tapped on his name. The result was a notification that popped up: title change cooldown time is 1 year. An additional 10,000 contribution points will be consumed. Plop. Jun Changshao directly collapsed on the ground. After adding titles to Li Qingyang and the others, they had different degrees of improvement in all aspects. It could be said that they had greatly increased the sect's combat power. Therefore, the 100,000 contribution points cost was not at all unjustified. Sigh. Jun Changshao sat in the study with a frown on his face. His disciples had all improved, but his temperament had not improved. This was very troublesome. "Host, don't forget." The system reminded him. "There are still a few bottles of divine-grade aptitude modification liquid." Yes. With this reminder, Jun Changshao began to think about how to distribute the third-grade divine-grade aptitude modification liquid. "I'll give it to Su Xiaoma, Xiao Ziji, and Yi Xingqian first." The third disciple had delayed his cultivation because he went undercover. Until now, he had not caught up with the core disciples. Therefore, Jun Changshao thought of him first for the aptitude modification liquid. As for Xiao Ziji and Yi Xingqian, one represented the shield and the other represented the spear. The improvement of their spirit roots would also bring about great benefits. On the same day, Jun Changshao called the three of them over. "Thank you, Patriarch, for your reward." Su Xiaoma and Xiao Ziji cupped their hands and said. Yi Xingqian took the aptitude modification liquid and hurried back to his residence. Then, he slammed the door shut and leaned against the door, breathing heavily. He had taken the elixir many times and naturally knew its effects. Now that the Patriarch had given him another bottle, he would have divine-grade spirit roots after taking it. Night Emperor's hand that was holding the bottle trembled violently. He could not calm down for a while. Logically speaking, he had divine-grade spirit roots in his previous life and should be calm. Why was he so agitated? Because when he had just been reborn, he had estimated that it would take at least 100 years for his spirit root to reach divine grade with the help of the Taishen Sutra. Now, in the sect of all times, it had only taken him a few years to reach divine grade. The speed was dozens of times faster. When one's spirit root reached divine grade, they would be able to sense the attributes of heaven and earth faster and achieve breakthroughs faster. When they broke through to Martial Emperor Wu Sheng, they would have the ability to break through the void and enter the upper realm. Paw! He opened the bottle and drank the aptitude modification liquid. Huff huff. His spirit root was instantly upgraded to divine grade. Kacha! Yi Xingqian clenched his fists and looked at the stars through the window. He said murderously, "Empress Lingyao, your good days are coming to an end." Chapter 1184. Su Xiaoma and Xiao Ziji took the aptitude fluid. Not only did their spirit roots improve, but they also reached the peak of Wu Huang. At this point, the Sect of all times already had 5 people with divine-grade spirit roots. There's also a bottle of divine-grade array modification fluid. Jun Changshao thought for a while and decided to give the fluid to Elder Zhen. Actually, he could use it to improve his array formation understanding and arrangement skills. However, if he had to do everything himself, would he be raising a group of special talents to do nothing? If you can, give Zhou Hong the divine-grade sword aptitude fluid. The system said. That won't do. Jun Changshao said, I have to use this myself. After breaking through to Saint level, his sword arts had already reached the upper limit. If he didn't use the aptitude fluid to improve, it would definitely drag down his martial arts. Whoosh! He waved his hand and took it out, then drank it. As there were no wine manufacturers to talk about cooperation, the taste was not described. Lingyan Pavilion's exclusive divine weapon modification stone. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out a stone that looked like a spirit stone. He murmured, what is this? If it was an exclusive divine weapon, he could roughly guess that it could be used to modify the world of wisdom. However, why did it add the Lingyan Pavilion as a prefix? It's very obvious. The system said, it's used to modify exclusive divine weapons that meet the requirements of the Lingyan Pavilion. Jun Changshao said, for example, Qin Yang's Heavenly Slaughter Lightning Pattern, Zui Ji's Cloud Boat Hermit and Anyo's Death Sacrifice? Should be, the system said. The exclusive divine weapons of the 3 disciples had to be exchanged for in the Lingyan Pavilion. As for the Purple King's gloves, it was exchanged according to his position. Let's try. Jun Changshao called them over and took back the 3 exclusive divine weapons. However, no matter how he touched the modification stone with his spiritual thoughts, there was no change. Why not? The host used the method of hard to keep to modify exclusive divine weapons. Naturally, it won't work. Perhaps it needs a professional to refine it. Master Fan. Foundry Peak, Foundry Hall. Fan Yezi carefully examined the 3 modification stones that seemed ordinary but actually contained special energy. Finally, he exclaimed excitedly, God's stone. This is a divine stone. Can it be smelted? Jun Changshao asked. After a moment of silence, Fan Yezi said, there should be no problem. During this period of time in the sect, he had been injecting souls into the weapons in the shop and even the divine weapons, which had given him a lot of valuable experience. If it had been in the past, he would have been scratching his head. Jun Changshao returned to the study after handing over the task of modifying the divine weapon to Hall Master Fan. He pulled open the purchased items column and locked onto the 7 mysterious glowing ray fragment volume 5. He murmured, if I buy it, won't I have another unlucky guy? He was now certain that as long as he bought the remnant scroll, it would definitely be second-hand goods, because the system had stolen it from someone else. Jun Changshao had no qualms about blackmailing and extorting people who offended him. However, he felt a little guilty about stealing other people's things out of the blue. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures belong to those who are fated. The system said, why does the host care about the method used to obtain it? Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. This guy really didn't care about his bottom line in order to make him spend money. Let's talk about it later. The system said, the host used contribution points to buy it. Is it wrong to buy it fairly? That makes sense. Jun Changshao was tempted by its words. The system continued to persuade, the remnant scroll was created by the 7 mysterious lord. If someone else obtained it, they might have used some despicable means. Buy it. Under the persuasion of a qualified salesman, Jun Changshao didn't stick to his bottom line in the end. Ding! The host has spent 20,000 contribution points. Ding! The 7 mysterious glowing ray fragment volume 5 is sealed in the starry sky fortress and can't be transported to the spatial ring. The purchase has failed. Ding! Sect contribution points, 500,007,0000. Jun Changshao's expression suddenly stiffened. He had bought things in the shop countless times, but this was the first time he had encountered a purchase failure. Fuck! After a while, Lord Roar reached his limit and shouted angrily, "If the purchase fails, then so be it. Why did they deduct 20,000 contribution points from me?" The system said, "The host has to pay first before receiving the goods." However, the purchase failed due to irresistible reasons. The contribution points won't be refunded. Profiteer. Profiteer. Jun Changshao almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The system comforted, although the purchase failed, it gave the location where it was sealed. The host can go and find it. This sentence made Goshen collapse even more. It was a transaction that cost money. Whether the system steals or not has nothing to do with me. Now, it wants me to find it. Isn't that the same as admitting that I stole it? Wait. Starry Sky Fortress. Jun Changshao immediately calmed down and said, "Isn't it the place that the bald man mentioned before? In the endless universe, there was an extremely dark area. If one kept going deeper, one would see a huge floating castle-like building. Because of the extremely strange aura, it gave one the feeling of hell. Here. This was the Starry Sky Fortress. Back to when Jun Changshao first purchased it. In a sealed secret room in the fortress, the remnant scroll placed on the table suddenly trembled slightly, as if it was going to disappear at any time. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, a silhouette flew over. His hands quickly formed a seal, and a dazzling energy appeared out of thin air. It instantly suppressed the restless secret scriptures. A moment later, the remnant scroll stopped trembling and everything returned to normal. Standing next to him, a man wearing a simple robe and a golden mask, whose gender could not be determined, said with a hoarse voice, "Someone can actually use the power of space to break through the 9 seals array that I set up." Wang! At this moment, a faintly discernible array appeared in the secret room. On the surface, there were extremely complicated patterns. At first glance, one could tell that it was very advanced and mysterious. Amazing, my brother. Every time Jun Changshao bought a remnant scroll, whether it was He Wudi, the black and white double killers, or the Rose Queen, they were all successful. Only this time, they encountered an obstruction. Of course. Stealing also depended on the timing. He Wudi was chased by a group of experts. Knowing that it was difficult to escape, he planned to throw the remnant scroll away. In the end, it was stolen. The black and white double killers fought with each other for the ownership of the remnant scroll, so it was stolen. Needless to say, the Rose Queen kept it close to her body, thinking that it was very safe. In the end, it was still stolen. However, this remnant scroll had the 9 seals array that was extremely sensitive to the power of space. When the system stole it, it immediately alerted the owner and came in advance to suppress it with multiple seals. Fortunately, it was saved. It was not easy to say that it was easy for the system to steal things. It could only be said that the owner was too careless. Schwa! Schwa! Array eyes and lines appeared in the secret room. The level of defense was many times higher than before. After the masked man finished his work, he had just returned to the magnificent main hall when a cultivator wearing an armor walked over and saluted, "Master, I just received news that 2 of the second-class 5 tyrants of the Starry Sky have died and the other 3 have disappeared." Oh? The masked man's voice was filled with surprise. The armored warrior said, "According to my investigation, their recent location is in the universe outside the falling star continent. Send someone to inquire about it." Yes. Chapter 1185. Starry Sky Fortress. Jun Changshao sat in the study and pondered. The bald man once said that there was an underground black market there that sold many treasures. Now that the 5th scroll was sealed in the fortress, didn't that prove what he said? Jun Changshao said, "Let's find some time to go take a look." The system complained, "Host, you're doing this for the 20,000 contribution points, right? Why would I care about such a small amount of contribution points?" Jun Changshao said proudly. "All right." The system said, "When the cooldown of the space-time secret realm is over, You can speed up the process of changing your title. At that time, please spend 10,000 contribution points to change it. Jun Changshao fell into deep thought. Bah! Whether it was for the contribution points or the fifth scroll, Jun Changshao decided to find some time to go to the Starry Sky Fortress. Therefore, he could only wait for the cooldown of the space-time secret realm to be over. Patriarch. One day, Master Fan excitedly said, "Success, I've successfully modified it." Jun Changshao went to the smithing hall. As soon as he walked in, he felt an extremely powerful aura. Damn! In the next second, Go Sheng's eyes widened. On the smithing table, there was a shield with golden edges. The surface was engraved with special patterns. It was obviously a super luxurious equipment. Fan Yezi introduced, "Patriarch, this is Xiao Ziji's cloud boat hero." After modification, it changed from a pot shape to a shield shape. Its defense has also been greatly improved. Is that so? Jun Changshao grabbed the shield with one hand. Even with all his strength, he could not lift it up. Only then did he realize that he was in a weakened state. He shook his head and said, "Inform Zoe and let him inspect the goods." Boom! On the main peak of the sect of all times, there was a sudden explosion. The disciples who came to watch the show widened their eyes. Because under the flying dust, an extremely heavy shield gradually appeared. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. As the heavy aura of the earth surged, they immediately realized that this was definitely an extremely powerful defensive treasure. Shwa! At this moment, Xiao Ziji flew over from afar. He floated to the front of the golden shield and placed his hands on the edge. He shouted, "Come! Ta! Step! Ta!" Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, Tian Qi, Long Xiang, Song Xianzhou, and the other core disciples appeared in a row on the training field. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the main hall, waved his hand and said, "Go!" Swoosh! Whoosh! The disciples looked at each other, and then used their movement techniques to rush over from different positions. Fist prints, palm prints, footprints, and swan prints suddenly filled the air and blasted towards the modified cloud boat hero. Boom! Xiao Ziji waved his hand, and a shield inlaid with gold that was as heavy as a mountain was raised. The patterns on the surface of the shield seemed to transform into ancient beasts that roared at the incoming attacks. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. In an instant, the training field flickered with light, and violent energy wantonly exploded. Fortunately, before the battle began, Zhen Dejuan had already set up a high-level defensive barrier around the area, and it didn't affect the disciples outside. Oh my god! Senior brothers are too strong. Looking at the dazzling light inside, everyone was dumbfounded. Li Qingyang, who didn't make a move, stood in front of them and said, "When they first entered the sect, they weren't as strong as you guys, so as long as they cultivate diligently, they will become stronger one day." Second senior brother. Everyone said in unison, "We understand." Qingyang is still the most sensible. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in front of the main hall, smiled. However, when he saw the cold face of the eldest disciple in the distance, he shook his head and said, "When will she be enlightened?" Among all the disciples, the ones he was most worried about were Lu Qianshan and Yi Xingchen. One had a cold personality, while the other was proud and aloof. They did not fit in with the happy atmosphere of the sect. Boom! Boom! The bombardment on the training field pulled Jun Changshao back to reality. He turned around and saw that Xiao Ziji had already easily neutralized the various powers of Su Xiaomao and the others. So strong. Go Sheng was a little surprised. One had to know that the core disciples he sent were not inferior to Xiao Ziji in terms of cultivation level. If they were in the Falling Star continent, they would definitely be outnumbered. But now, they couldn't break through the defense. Boom! Boom! The battle was still ongoing. After fighting for more than 2 hours, Xiao Ziji carried the shield and staggered to the edge of the training field. He said, "I can't take it anymore, I'm not fighting anymore." Huff huff. Su Xiaoma bent over and placed his hands on his knees. His breathing was slightly hurried as he said, "Junior brother, the defense of your shield is too strong." Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others were also exhausted. The group of monsters fought for so long and only managed to push Xiao Ziji back. If it was on the continent or the plain battlefield, it would really be an indestructible moving fortress. "I've sinned," Jun Changshao said. "Are you satisfied?" "Satisfied. Satisfied." Xiao Ziji fondled the second form of the cloud boat hero lovingly. His face was full of smiles. Not only was the defense of his transformation divine weapon stronger, but it also got rid of the cauldron form. He wouldn't be laughed at as a scapegoat anymore. I'm a scapegoat now." "What?" Yi Xingchen said. "This was modified by your cauldron?" "Yes." Xiao Ziji nodded. "Shwa." Yi Xingchen immediately went to the main peak to find Jun Changshao and said, "Patriarch, can you modify this disciple's personal divine weapon?" As a respectable person, carrying a wine jar every time he fought would really damage his image. If Xiao Ziji could change it, then so could his. Don't worry. Jun Changshao said, "Hall Master Fan is in the process of modifying it." And so, Yi Xingchen began to anxiously wait. A few days later, he stood in the smithing hall with a dull expression. Because the modified form of the Li Shang ritual to the heavens had changed from a wine jar to a wine gourd. What the hell? The personal divine weapon was definitely related to the word wine. The Li Shang ritual to the heavens form changed, and so did its function. Previously, it covered the head, but now, the mouth of the gourd expanded to cover the entire person and then dissolve it. "Ah no." Jun Changshao said seriously, "Your personal divine weapon was originally called the purple gold red gourd. It came from a divine vine at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. It was obtained by the ancestors of the sect of all times and has been preserved to this day." Yi Xingchen's mouth twitched. "Patriarch, this is obviously white jade. The color has faded over the years," Jun Changshao explained. Yi Xingchen doubted his words. However, after testing its power, he found that it could still be used to smash people, and an expression of "so good" appeared on his face. Xiao Ziji and Pei Anyo's divine weapons had been modified, and their forms had changed. At least, they did not look so funny anymore. However, when Fan Yezi modified Li Qingyang's heavenly slaughter thunder mark, its form was exactly the same as before, but its power was greatly increased. Sigh. The system sighed. From this, it can be seen that the second disciple is the most normal. In the endless universe. The powerhouse in charge of investigating the disappearance of the 5 tyrants was on his way here by ship. Chapter 1186. Half a month later, the space-time mystic realm's cooldown was over. Jun Changshao walked in without hesitation. The side effects of using the opening seal talisman and the universal talisman would last for a long time. Therefore, he focused on the Tianjun soul refining art during his recuperation period. This kind of soul cultivation technique relied on the insight talisman, but there was still a long way to go before he could truly reach the peak. The patriarch entered the mystic realm to recuperate. The disciples also worked harder to cultivate. Jun Changshao had extorted so many high-level spirit stones from the dimensional battlefield. They had already been distributed by Yuan Gongzi. Therefore, their cultivation resources were already very sufficient. The sect of all times disciples were 100 times luckier than any martial artist in the Starfall continent. After all, the latter were still using man-made spirit stones and crying tears of joy for breaking through a small realm. Not only were they using higher-level spirit stones, but they were also breaking through at lightning speed. Here was the problem. When could they become a second-rate sect? Actually, with their rapid development during this period, they had already reached the standard. Advancing to a higher realm was just a procedure. Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen from the certification center were getting impatient. According to the previous pace, the the sect of all times should have notified them to get certified. However, there was no news from them. It was completely out of the norm. They completely missed Miss Lu's delicious food. 10 days later, Jun Changshao walked out of the mystic realm. Huff! Huff! After recovering his cultivation, he stood at the back of the mountain. The domineering aura of a sect master was unleashed. He looked extremely dignified. The title, Most Shameless, increased his aura by 20%. To put it bluntly, whatever aura Jun Changshao displayed, the title would give that aura bonus. Once he became exceptionally serious, the aura of a person who had been in a high position for a long time would surge like a flood. When he was mischievous, he was not proper. When he was serious, he was too serious. It was a great test of the cartoonist's pen strength. The slightest mistake would cause the entire paragraph to collapse. In the 3 years of recuperation in the space-time mystic realm, Jun Changshao not only recovered his cultivation, but he also had a good understanding of the Tianjun soul-refining art. This was not the main point. The main point was that using time acceleration to offset the side effects of the one-kill punch. At this moment, his hair reached his waist, and he was as cool as the wind. That man, he was back. Schwa! In the main hall of the main peak, Jun Changshao sat down elegantly. This fellow's every move truly had the demeanor of a great master, with the aura of a king. Li Luoqiu, Jiang Ye, and the other senior members of the sect, who had been summoned in advance, were surprised. The patriarch, who had always been playful, suddenly became serious and even had an awe-inspiring temperament. It was really hard to get used to. Elder Ning. Jun Changshao asked, how many disciples are there now? Ning Duxing stood up and said, Patriarch, the sect has 68,300 disciples. There are still a few days before the disciple recruitment next month. Can we get the number of disciples to 70,000? No problem. After experiencing the dimensional battlefield and being publicly praised by the altar, the sect of all times had gained the recognition of the entire continent. Thus, there would be various geniuses visiting the sect every month. Later on, when Jun Changshao went to the Spiritus continent, Yuan Gongzi and the other elders had a discussion and increased the difficulty of the examination. There were fewer and fewer disciples in each batch. So to speak. If the patriarch did not care about talent and was eager to increase the number of disciples, he could lower the requirements for the mountain gate opening next month and easily add more than 1,000 disciples. Hall Master Li Jun Changshao tapped his fingers on the armrest and said, inform Headmaster Yi to send someone to certify the sect's level. Okay. Li Luoqiu immediately informed the branch outside and sent the news to the heavenly mandate imperial city as soon as possible. Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen, who were anxiously waiting, were immediately overjoyed when they received the news. After all, they could finally go to the sect of all times openly. You two stay, I will go personally, Headmaster Yi said. Ha! Elder Zhou and Elder Zhen were dumbfounded and then slumped weakly in their seats. The next day, Yi Tianqing went to the sect of all times. Knowing that the headmaster of the certification hall was coming personally for the certification, Jun Changshao personally went to the door to welcome them. After some pleasantries, he said, Headmaster Yi, begin the certification. Jun Patriarch. Yi Tianqing said in a low voice, I came in a hurry and haven't eaten yet. Jun Changshao's expression stiffened. Are you here to personally verify or are you here to freeload off me? And, the city lord of the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City, the headmaster of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, where did you two come from when Headmaster Yi said the word meal? I heard that Jun Patriarch is going to be certified as a second-rate sect. This is really something to celebrate, so the two of us came uninvited. If Jun Patriarch doesn't mind, can you add another pair of chopsticks? Jun Changshao looked like he was about to break down. However, as a hospitable person from Shandong, he would definitely treat them well, so he ordered the dining hall to prepare a sumptuous lunch for the three of them. Jun Patriarch. During the meal, Situ Haoyan said, Do you know why we are here? Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, To freeload. No. Situ Haoyun put down his chopsticks and wiped the grease from the corner of his mouth with a napkin. He said solemnly, "Since the War of the Emperors, the world has been torn apart. This barren land in the southwest named Yangzhou has never produced a second-rate sect. Is that so?" In this regard, Jun Changshao had never paid attention. Mu Changhong said seriously, "Once your sect is certified, it will be a first." So? Situ Haoyun then said, "This time, we are not here to freeload, but to be witnesses of your sect creating a miracle." Jun Changshao, who had already regarded himself as a member of Qingyang County in the southwest, heard the two of them say so, and a sense of pride immediately surged in his heart. "You too." After building up enough heroic emotions, Jun Changshao was just about to speak when he saw Mu Changhong and Situ Haoyun lowering their heads and wolfing down their food again. "The food that Miss Lu makes is really delicious. Jun Patriarch, give me another bowl of rice." Seeing the mayor and the dean stuffing their food, Jun Changshao lowered his head and pressed his forehead on the table. He howled in his heart, "You guys are here to freeload." After eating and drinking, it was time for the certification. There was no need to elaborate on the requirements to be promoted to a second-rate sect. In short, when old Ding, Gong Sun Haohai, Jiang Ye, the Ning brothers, and the other Wusheng and half-sage cultivators all unleashed their full potential, the requirements were met. This is too scary. Mu Changhong and Situ Haoyun's hearts were in a perilous situation. A sect that had not even been established for 10 years actually had so many Wusheng and half-sage cultivators. If they did not witness it with their own eyes, they would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. After all, his family had always been responsible for the certification of the sect of all times. However, when he personally came and saw such a lineup, he could not help but be deeply shocked. Ding! Congratulations to the host for upgrading the sect to a second-rate sect. You are rewarded with 20,000 achievement points and 20,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 700,007,0000. Ding! Sect achievement points, 201,007,000. After the notification ended, Jun Changshao moved the sign with the word "second rate" in front of the camera and said with a serious face, "From now on, please call my sect the Ancient Sacred Sect." Thank you. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.